Chapter 2102. God Kerr paid attention to any information regarding that person, but it did not take the initiative to look for him. Instead, it quickly increased its strength. Only with great power would it be able to protect itself. Whether or not that person was the same person for back then, it would definitely meet him in the later stages of the competition and find out who he was. Thinking about that person's identity, God Kerr felt a great deal of pressure. As such, it was doing its best to increase its strength rather than actively looking for him. With God Kerr's current status and strength, even those with the God race's Emperor star would not be able to give it such pressure, yet that person had done it so easily. At that moment, Zhao Fu sensed the entrance to another god's legacy land. The ripples that this entrance gave off were very powerful, and it was very easy to find it. This was the Thunder God's legacy land. Lei Tianban never would have thought that the person he had been searching for would be where he had first left. Zhao Fu hurried to the entrance to the Thunder God's legacy land. There was a massive blue ball of lightning that was formed from violet lightning. It was hundreds of meters wide and continuously gave off bolts of lightning that struck the ground, causing massive explosions and terrifying lightning power to spread out. This was why it was so easy to sense. The ripples from the lightning were simply too powerful, making it difficult to not sense it. There were many godly spirits gathered here, and if anyone tried to enter the domain of the ball of lightning, they would be met with powerful lightning attacks. Lightning was one of the most common elements, so there were many thunder gods. Zhao Fu's 10,000 god power had fused with thunder god power. Zhao Fu immediately turned his 10,000 god power into lightning, and black arcs of lightning appeared around Zhao Fu's body as a powerful lightning power spread out. This caused people to feel a wave of terror. Using the black lightning power, Zhao Fu formed a black lightning barrier and charged towards the ball of lightning. Boom, boom, boom. A few massive bolts of violet lightning containing terrifying power blasted toward Zhao Fu. They were incredibly fast, and in that instant, Zhao Fu's entire body trembled. However, Zhao Fu was already quite powerful, and adding on the fact that he had the lightning attribute, it was quite easy for him to block the lightning. He flew into the ball of lightning and entered the Thunder God's legacy land. After entering the Thunder God's legacy land, Zhao Fu immediately saw the tall and coarse Thunder God statue. There were many people here, around 20 or so people. It was Zhao Fu's first time seeing so many people. Before, he had only seen 2 or 3 people, so he was quite surprised. At that moment, the lightning stone statue gave off an intense violet light and a massive amount of lightning power. Lightning snakes formed from violet lightning appeared in the surrounding space, swimming around the stone statue and giving off a shocking aura. Those who were in the trial were battered by the lightning snakes. Some people could not take it and were injured, so they temporarily retreated from the stone, while others were to it. However, some powerful people had already come to the violet lightning formation to take on the second trial, which was a test of talent, strength, and willpower. A decent-looking man dressed in azure-colored robes resisted the powerful sovereign's might and came before the sovereign statue. The sovereign statue lowered its head and looked at the man. Suddenly, the statue's forehead shone with violet light, and a powerful wave of lightning power spread out, causing many tiny arcs of violet lightning to appear in the surroundings. Boom! A violet ray of light containing a few arcs of lightning and a terrifying aura quickly shot towards the azure-clothed man's body, and a massive wave of sovereign's power entered the young man's body. The young man looked rather excited because he had received the acknowledgement of the sovereign statue. To ordinary people, this was an extremely great honor. At the same time, he felt that he would receive the lightning god's legacy power, making him even more powerful. Sensing the massive amount of lightning entering him, the young man closed his eyes and began to absorb it. After a while, the violet light from the statue's forehead slowly dimmed before disappearing, giving the young man a legacy power. However, this legacy power caused the aura that the young man gave off to become 10 times more powerful than before. This caused others to feel admiration and admiration. Obtaining the legacy land of the lightning god was an incredibly difficult thing, and it might even be impossible for them to do so. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as a person was unable to block the lightning snake's attack. His body was sent flying, and he coughed up a large mouthful of blood. Zhao Fu didn't waste any more time. The more legacy power he obtained, the more powerful he would become. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu exploded out with all of his 10,000 god lightning power. Countless bolts of black lightning exploded out from his body, stretching out in the air, twisting, merging, and splitting. They filled the surroundings, looking extremely terrifying. Bringing with him the countless bolts of lightning, Zhao Fu charged towards the statue. Boom! 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 The moment Zhao Fu stepped into the statue's domain, the purple lightning snakes surrounding the statue gave off a terrifying aura and charged toward Zhao Fu. They were extremely fast, and with a flash of lightning, a few lightning snakes were about to reach Zhao Fu. At that moment, Zhao Fu controlled the countless bolts of black lightning around him to form a few bolts of black lightning. They brought with them a terrifying power and were extremely fast as they struck towards the few purple lightning snakes in front of him. Bang! 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 The few massive purple lightning snakes were pierced through by the bolts of black lightning, and their bodies exploded, turning into countless tiny arcs of lightning before disappearing. This sudden development caused the people who were undergoing the trial to be shocked, and they hurriedly turned to look at Zhao Fu. At that moment, Zhao Fu's speed was extremely fast, and he had already reached the vicinity of the statue. A powerful might slammed onto Zhao Fu's body, and Zhao Fu's body was forced back to the ground. He resisted the immense might and continued to walk forward. When the crowd saw this, they were stunned. Who was this person? How could he pass the trial so quickly? This was way too easy. By now, Zhao Fu had already arrived in front of the statue. At that moment, the green-robed man had also finished absorbing the legacy power of the Lightning Master God. He turned to look at Zhao Fu, who had appeared on the other side, and revealed a surprised expression. He had not expected another person to pass the legacy trial so quickly. The statue lowered its head and looked at Zhao Fu, and its gaze seemed to penetrate through Zhao Fu's body. A purple light shone out from its forehead once again, and a massive power of lightning spread out. Boom! A purple beam of light with a massive aura shot towards Zhao Fu's body, and the formidable power of the primordial lightning master god was infused into Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu closed his eyes and absorbed the power of lightning with all his might. Everyone looked at Zhao Fu in shock. This was the first time they had seen someone pass the trial so quickly and even receive the recognition and legacy power of the stone statue. Chapter 2103. Boom! At that moment, another explosion sounded out as a violet ray of light shot out from the stone statue's forehead, and even more lightning power entered Zhao Fu's body. Everyone felt quite startled. This was the second legacy power, and it had been given to that person as well. The azure-clothed young man looked quite confused. He had only received one legacy power, so how could this person receive two? Boom! Boom! Another two explosions sounded out as the stone statue shot out two more violet rays of light, each more powerful than the last. They landed on Zhao Fu's body, and even more violet lightning power entered Zhao Fu's body. He obtained 4 thunder god legacy power. Everyone felt quite shocked. This was the first time they had seen someone obtain 4 legacy power. This person's identity was definitely incredibly terrifying. No wonder he had been able to pass the trial so easily. He was not someone they could compare to. Zhao Fu closed his eyes and absorbed the ancient thunder god legacy power, fusing it into his 10,000 god power, causing the 10,000 god power to quickly become stronger. The stone statue had given Lei Tianba 5 legacy power, the azure-clothed young man 1 legacy power, and Zhao Fu 4 legacy power. Now, the aura it gave off dissipated, and its body became hazy. In the end, the stone statue disappeared. Boom! A massive explosion suddenly sounded out as the massive violet orb of lightning within the secret realm gave off an intense violet light and countless arcs of violet lightning. It gave off a massive aura as it turned into a violet ray of light and shot into the sky. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the violet orb of lightning exploded, causing a violet shockwave to spread out with unstoppable force. A powerful aura swept out in all directions as countless arcs of violet lightning shot out. In the sky, there were 24 magic formations, and one of them gave off violet light, as if it was filled with violet light. Now, there were 6 circles in the sky, giving off different lights. This meant that there were 6 god lords who had given all of their legacies. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as the 6 circles of the magic formation in the sky gave off 6 powerful lights, causing the magic formation to spin and give off an incomparably great power that enveloped the entire secret plane. At that moment, everyone in the secret realm sensed this power and stopped what they were doing as they looked at the magic formation in the sky. Everyone immediately received a system announcement that the first stage of the trial had begun. Those who had not raised their Pantheon imprint to blue grade in 3 days will be forcefully teleported out of the secret realm. God damn it. The first stage has begun so early, and that bastard has obtained another god lord's legacy power. Is he going to let us live? That's right. The first stage is to force us to fight. Originally, we wanted to enter the mystic realm to search for treasures and not fight. But now, if we don't fight and defeat others, it's impossible for the Pantheon mark to rise to the blue level. I knew that there would be a lot of variables in the Pantheon this time. It's no surprise that the first stage would start so early. Fortunately, I've already upgraded the Pantheon seal to the blue level, so I don't have to worry about this. Sigh, it feels so difficult. A white Pantheon imprint can only be raised to blue grade by defeating 10 people with the same white imprint. I reckon a large number of people will be eliminated in the first stage. I just want to know who that person is. He brought the first stage of the trial forward by so much. We're all in trouble. I want to teach that bastard a lesson. I'm so angry. In the Thunder God's legacy land, Zhao Fu also received the system announcement. His expression did not change. Now that his Pantheon imprint had been raised to gold grade, he did not need to care about the system announcement. After absorbing the powerful lightning god's power, Zhao Fu's 10,000 godly powers attack power had greatly increased. Lightning itself was an extremely powerful type of power, after all. After that, Zhao Fu searched around for treasures before leaving the legacy land. Everyone could only look at Zhao Fu in awe. They had seen Zhao Fu obtain 4 legacy power with their own eyes, and the system announcement for the start of the first stage had sounded. It was obvious that this person had started the first stage of the trial. The fact that he had obtained 4 legacy power was enough for them to look up to him and not dare to offend him. Zhao Fu left this place and continued to plunder divine power. He had just fused with another god power and needed the divine power of other gods to neutralize it. Suddenly, Zhao Fu, who had been flying in the air, discovered that there was a very large forest of flowers below him. The snow-white trees were covered with silver-white flowers that gave off a faint divine light, forming a silver-white sea of flowers. A faint fragrance wafted through the air, and with a light sniff, one would feel refreshed and relaxed. At that moment, a light breeze gently blew through the branches, and the silver-white flowers gave off a clear, tinkling sound. The tinkling sounds were very pleasing to the ears, and the swaying flowers seemed to be playing a piece of music. Zhao Fu stopped and felt that this kind of flower was quite special. Zhao Fu had never seen this kind of flower before, and after thinking about it, he remembered that the flower fairy had mentioned this kind of flower before. A delighted smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face because this kind of flower looked quite similar to the soul bell tree flower. The soul bell tree flower was a flower that looked like a tree and would only grow where there were many godly spirits' corpses. The flowers that grew were silver white and would give off a kind of soul sound when lightly trembling. This kind of soul sound was a sound that only souls could hear. In other words, the clear sound of the flower tree had just given off had not been heard by the ears but by the soul. The soul bell tree flower itself had very powerful godly spirit energy because it mainly absorbed the godly spirits of godly spirits' corpses. Each of the 8 wondrous flowers had their own kind of power. The world wonder flower contained world energy. The dark night flower contained sorcery energy. The evil spirit abyss flower contained demonic energy, and the otherworld gold flower contained gold energy. The soul bell tree flower contained godly spirit energy. Apart from having different powers, the 8 wondrous flowers also had different abilities. For example, the evil spirit abyss flower's power was quite evil and could control people to do anything they wanted. Ordinary people would find it difficult to resist this kind of control. Once people were controlled by the evil spirit energy, they would not be able to break free at all. The evil spirit abyss flower's power was quite powerful. The otherworld gold flower's power was also quite powerful and could turn everything into gold. This kind of gold energy was quite powerful and was quite difficult to resist, and it could also nurture soldiers made of gold. As for the world wonder flower, which was the world flower, and the dark night flower, because they had not bloomed yet, Zhao Fu did not know what abilities they had. The flower fairy had only recovered a trace of her memories and did not have any information about them. Chapter 2104. The reason why Zhao Fu knew about the evil spirit abyss flower and the otherworld golden flower was because Zhao Fu had the evil spirit abyss flower's power and had subdued the otherworld golden flower ancestor. The otherworld golden flower ancestor was already in its final form and did not need to be nurtured. In other words, Zhao Fu wanted to nurture the world wonder flowers, dark night flower, and evil spirit abyss flower in Qin City into flower ancestors just like the otherworld golden flower ancestor. Zhao Fu did not know how long this would take, because the world wonder flowers that he had planted for almost 10 years still had not bloomed. Zhao Fu did not know how long it would take to nurture them into flower ancestors. Zhao Fu did not know what powerful abilities the soul bell flowers had, but it was most likely not simple. It was definitely a very powerful ability. However, Zhao Fu looked at the countless flowers and trees below and found that there were countless of them. Logically speaking, the world wonder flowers should be quite rare, so why were there so many of them here? Moreover, the world wonder flowers were incredibly precious treasures, and ordinary people would not let go of such treasures. As such, they should have taken these trees away, so why were there nothing wrong with them? Zhao Fu felt quite confused and wanted to go down and take a look. A woman's voice suddenly sounded out, "Don't go down. That's a forbidden region in the secret realm. Who knows how many godly spirits have died there?" Zhao Fu paused and looked to the side. A beautiful woman with a graceful figure and a cold aura appeared in front of him. Seeing this woman, Zhao Fu had some impression of her. She seemed to be Miel Lu's female attendant. Miel Lu was the destruction god and the owner of an emperor's star. She represented the godly domain in the competition. Why was she here? Could it be that Miel Lu had gone in? This time, it was Zhao Fu's mistake. Miel Lu was the owner of an emperor's star and the most terrifying person in the godly domain. The place she was going to was very dangerous, so she did not bring her maid with her. Instead, she left her to find her own opportunities. The maid's name was Lu Li. As the personal maid of Miel Lu, she was very talented. Although she couldn't be compared with Miel Lu, she could still be considered as a strong warrior. Miel Lu would never have thought that the opportunity she asked Liu Li to look for herself would lead to an existence that even she was afraid of. Zhao Fu looked at Liu Li. She did not seem to have any malicious intentions and was just reminding him out of kindness. Zhao Fu replied with a smile, "I see. Thank you." Then, Zhao Fu continued to fly downward. Liu Li looked quite surprised. After hearing Zhao Fu's words, she had thought that Zhao Fu knew how dangerous that place was and would not go there. She had never thought that Zhao Fu would directly fly there. Zhao Fu, who was continuously descending, immediately sensed that something was wrong with the sea of flowers. From afar, he had felt that the sea of flowers was very beautiful and did not seem dangerous at all. However, now that he was close, he realized how terrifying it was. This sea of flowers had an extremely terrifying power that could devour one's godly soul, and it was like a massive mouth. In front of this mouth, Zhao Fu felt as small as a grain of sand. His entire body felt icy cold, and he could not help but feel a trace of fear. Even with Zhao Fu's power, he had this feeling. This was enough to prove how terrifying the sea of flowers was. Ordinary godly spirits would definitely die if they stepped into this place without any chance of survival. No wonder it was listed as a forbidden area. However, it was not so easy for this sea of flowers to devour Zhao Fu's godly soul. Now, Zhao Fu's strength was already extremely terrifying. Moreover, Zhao Fu's soul had integrated the power of yin and yang and became the yin and yang soul fire. He had a strong resistance to this kind of devouring power, and the impact was not very big. Zhao Fu still flew down from the sky and landed directly in the sea of flowers. Luli was stunned. How come Zhao Fu flew into the sea of flowers and nothing happened to him? Could it be that the power that could devour the godly soul was gone? This was a forbidden area in the secret land, and no one had ever stepped into it. There were treasures everywhere in the secret land, and there might be some rare treasures in the forbidden area. Thinking of this, Luli flew down. At first, Luli did not feel any danger, but the moment she approached the sea of flowers, the whole sea of flowers immediately turned into a huge mouth and swallowed her. Luli's body seemed to have fallen into ice water, and her body trembled instinctively. The power of Luli's godly soul weakened rapidly. She only felt a strong dizziness, and her body fell directly. Zhao Fu raised his head and looked at Luli, who had fallen down. He stretched out a hand, and a colorful force gushed out and shot toward Luli. It surrounded her and formed a colorful bubble with runes on it. Now, Zhao Fu used the power of immortal mode. Because Zhao Fu had opened the 5 senses of celestial beings, it also had a very strong spiritual defense. Immortal mode, based on it, also had a very strong spiritual defense. The colorful energy bubble fell in front of Zhao Fu with Lu Li's body, and Zhao Fu stretched out his hands to catch her body. At this time, Lu Li's face was a little pale because she had lost a lot of spiritual power. Because of the colorful bubble blocking the devouring power of the sea of flowers, Lu Li's spirit was no longer devoured. Lu Li looked at Zhao Fu, who was holding her, and a touch of red appeared on her face. Only now did she understand that the terrible power that could devour the godly soul did not disappear, but it had no effect on Zhao Fu. But who was this person in front of her? How could he be immune to such a terrible power that could devour the godly soul? Ordinary people would never be able to do this. Zhao Fu looked at her with a smile. It's very dangerous here. You can't resist it with your strength. You'd better leave here. Lu Li came down from Zhao Fu's arms and said with a smile, "Thank you for saving my life. I'll leave here immediately. Can you tell me your name? I'll repay you in the future." Now, Lu Li naturally understood that without Zhao Fu's help, she would have died here. She could not explore this place with her ability. Zhao Fu said with a smile, "No need." Lu Li did not continue to ask, and said with a smile, "I'll remember your kindness. I won't bother you anymore, but you have to be careful." Zhao Fu responded with a smile. Following that, Zhao Fu began to explore the flower forest, and Lu Li also left the flower forest. However, she did not go too far and stayed nearby. Lu Li was a little worried about this dangerous place. She wanted to wait for Zhao Fu to come out and see if there was anything wrong with him before leaving. Moreover, she did not have any place to go. At the same time, she had a hunch that Zhao Fu entering this forbidden area might cause some changes. She did not know why she had this hunch. She did not know Zhao Fu at all, but she had this hunch. Her hunch had always been very accurate, and she was not sure if it was because she had been staying next to the owner of the Emperor Star that she had been greatly affected. Chapter 2105. Lu Li was not wrong to think this way. The possessor of an Imperial Star had an incredibly large amount of fate and was someone who was acknowledged by the heavens. They had a large amount of fate, which was not only beneficial to themselves, but also to the people around them. It could even change the fate of everyone around them. It could be said that as long as a person possessed an imperial star, that group of people would be affected by a large amount of fate and would receive countless benefits. This was one of the reasons why ordinary people wanted to follow experts. Zhao Fu walked a few steps in the flower forest and looked around. It was completely silent, and there was no sound at all. There was not even the sound of insects, which was quite terrifying. No matter how beautiful the flower forest was, Zhao Fu was not in the mood to look at it. Zhao Fu came in front of a 10-meter-tall flower tree and wanted to see if this flower tree was a soul bell tree flower. If it was, Zhao Fu could just dig one out and solve the problem easily. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand and pressed it against the snow-white tree trunk. The tree trunk gave off a devouring power, wanting to devour Zhao Fu's godly soul. However, with its power, it was completely useless against Zhao Fu. Even if Zhao Fu stood there and let it devour, it would not be able to devour him. This was because Zhao Fu's defense was too terrifying, and it was not something that a small tree like this could deal with. After pressing his hand against the tree trunk, Zhao Fu felt that there was a godly soul within the tree trunk, causing the tree to seem to have a life of its own. Boom! A massive wave of power flowed out from Zhao Fu's palm and into the tree trunk, grabbing onto the godly soul within. The godly soul was grabbed by Zhao Fu, and it struggled and howled as if it had gone mad. It was incredibly ear-piercing. Zhao Fu pulled his hand out and pulled the godly soul out of the tree trunk, which was a silver-white ball of light. After the 10-meter-tall tree lost the godly soul, it immediately withered. Silver-white petals fell like rain, creating a beautiful scene. This was especially so when the petals withered. They gave off clear sounds as if they were wailing. The continuously falling petals and the wailing made the scene look quite poignant. After the countless flowers withered, the tree trunk lost its moisture and became dry and cracked. The snow-white color gradually became gray-white, and the aura that the tree gave off became much weaker. This was not a true soul bell tree flower, but a tree affected by the soul bell tree flower's power. A true soul bell tree flower would not be like this. The real soul bell tree flower possessed powerful divine soul power, so it would not be so weak. Furthermore, after death, it would still have a very strong divine power aura. Zhao Fu looked at the silver-white orb of light in his hand, which was the tree's soul. It continuously struggled in Zhao Fu's hand and gave off an ear-piercing cry. Zhao Fu used his power to restrict it and threw it into his spatial ring. Although this wasn't a true soul bell tree flower, the soul it nurtured was the purest kind of soul. Whether it was used to forge god artifacts or anything else, it was a very precious material. Moreover, no matter what it was made into, it would have the power to devour godly souls. This was a treasure that ordinary godly spirits could not obtain, and it was very useful to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked at the forest of flowers and smiled. Even if he could not find soul bell tree flowers, he would be able to extract the godly souls from the fake soul bell tree flowers. Boom! An explosion sounded out as a massive black aura flowed out from Zhao Fu's body. Zhao Fu controlled the black aura to form black tentacles that shot towards the fake soul bell tree flowers. The black tentacles were incredibly fast and shot into the depths of the divine tree. A powerful energy spread out, covering the divine soul within the divine tree and pulling it out. The flowers on the trees started to wither, and countless petals fell like rain, covering the ground and making it seem like there was a carpet made of flowers. That faint floral fragrance also thickened and filled the air. After the godly souls of the trees were extracted, they struggled continuously and gave off ear-piercing cries. The tentacles wrapped around them gave off waves of energy and shackled the godly souls. Following this, the tentacles pulled back the godly souls. Zhao Fu put away the godly souls and continued to control the tentacles made of black aura to shoot towards the trees and extract their godly souls. The flower forest that no one dared to offend in the secret realm had met its nemesis this time. Luli waited outside and watched as the flowers in the flower forest withered and the tree trunks withered. She revealed a shocked expression. She had a feeling that something would happen to Zhao Fu after he entered the flower forest, but she had not expected it to happen so quickly. She did not know what Zhao Fu was doing inside for so many trees to wither. Now, these withered trees naturally did not have the power to devour godly souls, so it would be fine to walk over. Luli thought about it, and could not help but walk over out of curiosity. She saw a large amount of black aura coming out of Zhao Fu's body, which formed tentacles that were as thick as 2 fingers and shot towards the surrounding trees. After the tentacles shot into the trees, they extracted a silver-white ball of light. The trees withered and the tentacles retracted, placing the ball of light beside Zhao Fu. Then, the tentacles shot out again and extracted the silver-white ball of light. Now that she felt the huge aura from Zhao Fu, Luli was shocked. Only now did she understand how powerful Zhao Fu was. Zhao Fu stopped and turned to look at Luli. He asked with a surprised smile, "Why haven't you left yet?" Luli said with a smile, "I have nowhere to go, so I stayed for a while. I did not expect you to not only not be afraid of the flower forest, but also restrain it and extract their godly souls." Zhao Fu replied with a smile, "It's nothing." Luli looked at a tree and asked with a smile, "Are these really soul bell tree flowers? Can you give me one?" Luli couldn't resist the devouring force formed by a large flower forest, but she could easily resist the devouring force emitted by a few flower trees. Zhao Fu could not help but smile. These are not the real soul bell tree flowers, but the trees affected by the power of the soul bell tree. Moreover, these things do not belong to me. You can take them yourself if you want. They did not know how many trees there were, and they were not the real soul bell tree flowers. Of course, Zhao Fu would not care about a few trees. Luli responded with a smile. She was not too surprised. As one of the exotic flowers, the soul bell tree flowers could not have so many. However, Luli was very interested in the flowering trees. She came to the front of a 2-meter-high small flowering tree and looked at it carefully. Then she stretched out her hand and grabbed it. A powerful force spread out and pulled out the small flowering tree. Then she put it into her storage ring. Zhao Fu, on the other hand, continued to pluck out the divine souls of the flower trees. Chapter 2106. After Zhao Fu extracted the divine souls of the trees for a while, even though it was quite fast to extract the divine souls of hundreds of trees, Zhao Fu still felt that it was too slow. This was because the forest was incredibly big, and he did not know how long it would take for him to extract all of the divine souls. At that moment, Zhao Fu thought of an idea, so he stopped and raised a hand. A massive black aura continuously flowed out, forming a black orb in the air. Luli followed behind Zhao Fu and did not disturb Zhao Fu. Looking at the black orb that Zhao Fu had condensed, Luli felt quite curious about what Zhao Fu wanted to do. The black aura continuously flowed out, and the black orb became larger and larger. In the end, it was hundreds of meters wide and gave off a massive might. Zhao Fu stopped the power that flowed out and threw the black orb forward. The black orb brought with it massive power as it quickly shot forward. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the black orb exploded. Countless rays of black light containing immense power shot out in all directions, flashing through the air and disappearing into the flowers and trees. A terrifying power spread out within the trees, and the trunks of the trees gave off a black light. Silver-white orbs of light were forced out by the black power and floated in the air above the treetops. Silver-white orbs of light floated in the air, giving off a faint silver-white light. There were at least 5,000 to 6,000 of them. The trees that had lost their divine souls all started to wither, and petals fell from the trees like a rain of flowers. This scene was quite shocking. Zhao Fu waved his hand, and a massive power swept out, collecting the divine souls into his storage ring. Following this, Zhao Fu continued to use this method to extract the divine souls, and the efficiency was more than 10 times faster than before. At the same time, Zhao Fu continued to walk towards the depths of the forest. Luli followed behind Zhao Fu. Because Zhao Fu had extracted many divine souls, the soul-devouring power had disappeared, so Luli did not have to worry about this. Zhao Fu did not refuse and allowed her to follow behind him so that she would not hinder him. At this moment, Zhao Fu arrived at the inner part of the flower forest. The trees here were tens of meters tall, and their trunks were 6 meters thick. The trunks were snow-white, and the treetops were very big. There were many small silver-white flowers blooming on them, and the fragrance they gave off was even richer. It looked very spectacular. Moreover, these flowering trees did not look young. They all looked like ancient trees that were 100 meters tall. The God Spirit aura that they gave off was also very powerful. Zhao Fu looked at the many flowering trees and was about to continue extracting their divine souls. Suddenly, the flowering trees gave off powerful auras, and countless rays of silver-white light shot out. The small flowers swayed in the wind and gave off clear sounds. Soldiers wearing silver armor and holding spears with cold expressions and giving off powerful godly spirit auras walked out from the trees and looked at Zhao Fu. These soldiers were all divine souls of the flowering trees. Not only could they leave the trees, but they also had powerful attacks. Their bodies were not corporeal, but illusory. Zhao Fu looked at the divine souls in front of him. These divine souls could not be compared to the ones outside. Not only were their grades quite high, but they were also quite powerful. They were more than 10 times more valuable than the divine souls outside. There were over 10,000 divine soul soldiers in front of Zhao Fu, and they stood densely in the flower forest, giving off a powerful conquering aura. Facing so many divine soul soldiers, Zhao Fu did not feel much fear. The divine souls had cold expressions and gave off powerful auras as they rushed at Zhao Fu. Because they were divine souls, they had powerful soul-devouring power, and they were many times more dangerous than the flowering trees outside. Other people might be afraid of soul-devouring power, but Zhao Fu did not fear it at all. After all, Zhao Fu had the 5 celestial senses, a divine bloodline, and an yin-yang soul fire. In front of him were the divine soul soldiers holding spears. Zhao Fu stepped forwards and gave a trace of a confident smile as he met the divine souls, giving off a carefree and heroic aura. Luli stared at Zhao Fu from behind, feeling quite fascinated. She did not want to cause trouble for Zhao Fu, so she did not get too close to Zhao Fu. Kill! 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 The group of divine soul soldiers had cold expressions and held spears as they gave off murderous roars. They were quite fast and soon reached within 10 meters of Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu did not feel any fear and gave a confident smile as a massive aura spread out. Clang, clang, clang. The sounds of chains rang out as chains containing powerful auras shot out from the ground, shooting towards the divine soul soldiers like black bolts of lightning. The complexions of the divine soul soldiers changed. They waved the weapons in their hands, knocking away the incoming chains or dodging them. However, there were too many chains and they were constantly shooting out from the ground. Some divine soul soldiers had just dodged one iron chain, but another iron chain quickly bound them. Some divine soul soldiers swung their spears to knock away one iron chain, but another iron chain shot out from a corner and bound their arms. There were also some divine soul soldiers who released thin defensive barriers to block, but they were pierced through by several chains. The divine soul soldiers' bodies were bound. The divine soul soldiers who had been charging forward with ferocious momentum were all bound up in just a few moves. The smile on Zhao Fu's face did not change. The chains that bound the divine soul soldiers started to pull them down, causing black holes to appear in the ground. Now, Zhao Fu had pulled all of the divine soul soldiers into the sealed space and left them there for now. He would deal with them later. After tens of thousands of divine soul soldiers were pulled into the sealed space, tens of thousands of flower trees withered at the same time. Countless flower petals fell like rain, filling the sky like a rain of flowers. The scene was extremely beautiful and spectacular. Zhao Fu's expression did not change, and he continued to walk forward. Luli looked at the beautiful scene in front of her and could not help but sigh in amazement before continuing to follow behind Zhao Fu. Within the flower forest, there were flower trees that were over 100 years old. Each of them was dozens of meters tall and had already given birth to their own divine soul soldiers. In the eyes of others, they were very terrifying, but in front of Zhao Fu, they could not resist at all. The divine soul soldiers gave off powerful auras, and just as they walked out from the flower trees, chains quickly shot out, dragging these divine soul soldiers into the sealed space. Right now, it was not Zhao Fu who was afraid of these divine soul soldiers, but the divine soul soldiers who were afraid of Zhao Fu. Boom, 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 boom. After a while, Zhao Fu's actions finally angered the powerful existences within the flower forest. For massive auras burst out, and a terrifying aura spread out like a tide. Under this terrifying aura, the flower forest became even more dangerous, causing people to feel a trace of fear. Chapter 2107. The four auras seemed to be spread out in all directions, and after exploding out with powerful auras, they rushed towards Zhao Fu incredibly quickly. Zhao Fu stopped, and his expression became serious. Luli looked ahead with a serious expression. She understood that something terrifying was about to rush out, and from the massive auras, she would not be a match for it. In less than half a minute, four figures giving off massive auras appeared in front of Zhao Fu. These four people were generals riding on horses. The horses were 3 meters tall, and the generals were 4 or 5 meters tall, making them seem even taller. The generals and horses were silver white and did not have corporeal bodies. The generals were dressed in armor, and one of them held a silver white sword, one held a spear, one held a scimitar, and one held a large axe. Moreover, the four of them looked different. The one who held the sword was a cold-looking man. The one who held the spear was a resolute young man. The one who held the scimitar was a ferocious-looking woman, and the one who held the large axe was a muscular man. After the four of them appeared with massive auras, their gazes fell on Zhao Fu's body. The sword-wielding man asked coldly, "Who are you? You dare to recklessly destroy the Soul Bell Flower Forest?" Hearing this, Zhao Fu felt quite surprised. These four people were also godly souls and had their own consciousnesses. They were much stronger than ordinary godly soul soldiers. Zhao Fu said calmly, "I came here to find the Soul Bell Flower. If you hand over the Soul Bell Flower, I can leave." The axe-wielding man said furiously, "You're seeking death. There's no need to waste words. Let's kill this person together." The four people did not say anything and gave off powerful auras as they rushed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu did not feel any fear, and a massive black aura flowed out. Zhao Fu's thick hand controlled the black aura, forming 4 massive hands that grabbed towards the four people. Bang! 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 The four people also used great power and swung their weapons, giving off terrifying power that destroyed the 4 massive hands, causing them to turn into black motes of light and dissipate. The four people then rushed at Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu also took out the Emperor Killing Sword and sent a powerful wave of power into it. A massive wave of sword chi exploded out from the sword, causing a sword wind to blow out. At that moment, a person riding a horse arrived before Zhao Fu. A sword slashed towards Zhao Fu, bringing with it a powerful sword light. Boom! Zhao Fu also slashed out, and a massive sword energy containing massive sword chi slashed towards that person. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the 2 attacks collided, resulting in a massive explosion. However, the person riding the horse charged out of the explosion and arrived in front of Zhao Fu, slashing toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu blocked with his sword, while that person rode past Zhao Fu. Another person rode in front of Zhao Fu on his horse, and as he galloped forwards, he raised his large axe and chopped down. Shing! Zhao Fu swung his sword, blocking this axe. The 2 weapons clashed, causing sparks to fly everywhere. That person rushed past Zhao Fu, and another person riding a horse held a scimitar as he hacked toward Zhao Fu, but he was still blocked by Zhao Fu. The final person holding a spear sent large amounts of power into his spear, causing it to give off an intense silver-white light that illuminated the surroundings, and an extremely powerful soul power spread out. That person held a spear as he rode towards Zhao Fu incredibly quickly and gave off a ferocious aura. Zhao Fu stood where he was and raised the Emperor Killing Sword. He sent large amounts of power into it, causing the Emperor Killing Sword to give off an intense sword light. Boom! Zhao Fu slashed down, and an enormous black sword light containing immense sword energy slashed forwards, seeming to be able to split apart the ground. That person held a spear that gave off boundless light and stabbed towards Zhao Fu with shocking power. Bang! A massive explosion rang out as the two powers collided. A powerful shockwave spread out, creating a 10-meter-wide crater in the ground. This also forced the spear-wielding people to stop rushing over. Seeing this, Chun Feng's expression changed. However, they were not just one person. The other three people also attacked Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu continued to fight with them. They charged and attacked, which was quite disadvantageous to Zhao Fu. It was not easy for him to unleash any attacks, and they were easily dodged. The soul horses were also incredibly fast. Zhao Fu flew into the sky and raised the Emperor Killing Sword. A black sword light shot into the sky, and heaven and earth power quickly gathered in the surroundings. A massive sword formation giving off a destructive aura appeared, and a massive sword aura spread out. Boom! 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 Zhao Fu slashed out, and the sword formation started to spin. Terrifying sword lights gave off an aura that seemed to be able to slash apart everything as they slashed towards the four soul generals. Zhao Fu wanted to use this attack to deal with the four soul generals. Facing such a terrifying attack, a small silver-white flower appeared between the eyebrows of the four divine soul generals. It contained an extremely powerful divine soul power. This small flower floated above their heads, and a silver barrier of light spread out, covering their bodies. Bang! Bang! Terrifying sword lights descended, shattering the ground. Countless rays of sword light shot everywhere, causing rocks to fly everywhere as terrifying shockwaves spread out. After everything calmed down, a 1,000-meter-wide crater appeared on the ground. Additionally, there were even traces of terrifying sword energy coming out from the crater. However, the four soul generals at the center of the crater were not injured at all, and the four silver-white barriers only had cracks on them. Thinking about this, Zhao Fu frowned and lightly cried out, "Celestial mode. Activate." Boom! A massive aura exploded out from Zhao Fu's body, forming a shockwave that spread out. A rainbow-colored aura flame ignited around his body, and a celestial-like aura spread out. The four divine soul generals on the ground had solemn expressions and cold gazes. The protective barrier that protected them dissipated, and a powerful force was emitted from the four divine soul generals. Their bodies emitted a dazzling silver-white light. Boom! 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 The four soul generals rode large horses and gave off massive auras as they turned into four rays of silver-white light and shot into the sky. The four rays of light were incredibly fast, and they arrived in front of Zhao Fu in an instant. Zhao Fu slashed out, blocking the rays of light, but the rays of light spread out and attacked Zhao Fu from different directions. Bang! 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 Zhao Fu stood in the air and continuously swung his sword, sending out sword lights that clashed with the silver-white rays of light, resulting in massive sounds. Chapter 2108. These godly soul generals were quite difficult to deal with, and even though Zhao Fu had activated celestial mode, he did not have much of an advantage. Just as Zhao Fu was about to unleash his other powers, bang! Bang, fist-sized black orbs appeared around the four rays of light, following which a series of explosions occurred. Waves of destructive power exploded out, forming powerful shockwaves. Even though the explosions did not harm the four godly soul generals, the four rays of light dissipated, revealing the four godly soul general bodies. On the ground, Luli stretched out her hand and gave off a black light. A destructive aura spread out, and it was evident that she had been the one to unleash that attack. Because Zhao Fu had saved her life, she saw that Zhao Fu did not have an advantage and was unable to deal with the four godly soul generals. So she wanted to help Zhao Fu. Luli was not very strong, so the four soul generals did not pay much attention to her at first. Instead, they focused on Zhao Fu, who was extremely dangerous. However, Luli dared to attack them, causing a trace of killing intent to appear in the four soul generals' eyes. A big man holding a large axe turned his horse around and gave off a massive aura as he rushed over. He wanted to kill Luli. Seeing this, Zhao Fu immediately stretched out a hand, and chains shot out from the air, bringing with them immense power as they shot towards the big man. The big man turned and swung his axe, sending out a massive arc of light that seemed to be unstoppable. Clang, clang, clang. Many of the iron chains that shot over were instantly severed by the arcs of light. Countless broken iron chains fluttered in the air, emitting crisp sounds. Boom! Zhao Fu's gaze became serious, and he sent out a wave of powerful celestial power into the golden pupil in his left eye. The golden pupil became a rainbow-colored pupil, giving off boundless rainbow-colored light. Clang, clang, clang. Rainbow-colored chains bringing with them waves of celestial power shot out from the air, flying towards the big man like rainbow-colored streams of light. The big man rode on his horse and brandished the axe in his hand. Axe lights slashed out, cutting down the rainbow chains. However, there were too many chains, and they shot out from all directions. The big man had no way to defend against them. First, the horse was bound by the chains. Then, the man was also bound by the chains. The man struggled with all his might, trying to break free from the seven-colored chains. His strength was truly strong. Some of the seven-colored chains could not withstand his strength and had already broken apart. The other three divine soul generals immediately attacked Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu did not use a sword. Instead, he used his rainbow-colored eyes to look at the three incoming soul generals. The rainbow-colored chain-like eyes quickly spun, and a powerful force spread out. Clang, clang, clang. The rainbow-colored chains gave off immense power as they shot towards the three soul generals from all directions, and they were incredibly fast. The three soul generals immediately released a silver-white defensive cover, covering their entire bodies. Then, they waved their weapons and slashed out rays of cold light, cutting down the incoming chains. Lioli, who was on the ground, stretched out her hand and pressed down on the air. A massive destructive power gushed out from her hand, and black balls appeared around the three soul generals. Bang, bang, bang. Another series of explosions rang out as waves of destructive power exploded out, seeming to destroy everything in their path. Some cracks appeared on the defensive cover of the three soul generals, and more rainbow-colored chains shot towards the three soul generals with immense power. The soul generals could only slash out rays of cold light, cutting down the incoming chains. Some of the chains shot out from the other side, hitting the defensive cover, forcing the three soul generals to choose to defend. Boom! Once again, Flowing Pear emitted a huge destructive force. Black balls with destructive aura appeared around the three divine soul generals. Then, they all exploded, and waves of destructive force spread out. This wave of explosions caused more and more cracks to appear on the defensive cover of the three soul generals. It would not be long before the defensive cover would be broken. Arg! At that moment, the big man bound by the chains loudly roared, and his body gave off an intense silver-white light. A terrifying wave of godly spirit power flowed out, causing the rainbow-colored chains binding him to continuously break. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed and grabbed out with his hand. Crackle! Countless blood-red arcs of lightning containing terrifying power flowed along the rainbow-colored chains, and hit the big man's body. The big man's body violently trembled, and the intense pain caused him to howl. He stopped struggling, and more rainbow-colored chains shot out, continuing to bind his body. Zhao Fu looked at how much pain the big man was in, and it seemed that the god-slaying power had greatly harmed him. God-slaying power countered godly spirits, and godly spirits contained godly power. God-slaying power could suppress godly power, and lightning could cause great damage to souls. Understanding this, a trace of a smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face, and a powerful god-killing power exploded out. Crackle! Countless rainbow-colored chains wrapped in blood-colored arcs of lightning lashed out at the three divine soul generals. It was a frightening sight to behold. The three soul generals' expressions were quite grim, and they gave off even greater power as they swung their weapons, continuously slashing out cold lights that contained shocking power towards the incoming chains. Bang! 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 The metal chains and the cold light continuously clashed in the air, resulting in massive sounds. Gusts of wind blew, and arcs of lightning formed from the god-slaying power swirled around them. The rainbow-colored chains became even more powerful than before, and they greatly countered Soul General's power. Many of the rainbow-colored chains were not destroyed, and they instead lashed against the three Soul Generals' defensive barriers with terrifying power. More and more cracks immediately appeared on the defensive barriers. A trace of smile appeared on Zhao Fu's face as he released even more chains and god-slaying power. The chains gave off immense power as they slammed against the defensive barriers, and the three Soul Generals' defensive barriers were finally unable to withstand the power and shattered. The rainbow-colored chains shot out and bound up the three Soul Generals' bodies, and the blood-red arcs of lightning mercilessly struck their bodies. Arc! The three Soul Generals' bodies violently spasmed, and when the blood-red arcs of lightning struck their bodies, they felt as if their bodies were going to be torn apart. They could not help but howl in pain. It could be said that Hua Lin had met his greatest nemesis. Zhao Fu had the 5 celestial senses and a divine bloodline. The yin-yang soul flame made it so that Hua Lin's devouring power was useless, and now he even had the god-killing power to counter divine souls. Now, Hua Lin, the forbidden region of the secret realm, was about to suffer. After Zhao Fu used the rainbow-colored chains to bind up the 4 soul generals, the blood-red arcs of lightning continued to strike their bodies, causing immense pain. Their injuries became more and more severe, and they lost the ability to fight. In the end, Zhao Fu dragged them into a sealed space and sealed them there. Chapter 2109. After dealing with the 4 soul generals, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and said to Lu Li, "Thank you for just now." Even though Zhao Fu had dealt with the 4 soul generals by himself, Lu Li had also helped by distracting the 4 soul generals. Lu Li smiled as she said, "No need to thank me. You saved me before." Zhao Fu laughed and did not continue on this topic, and he said, "Let's go then. Don't go so far away and stay by my side." Lu Li could not help but smile and lightly nod. Following this, the two of them continued onwards towards the depths of the flower forest, where the true soul bellflower tree should be. After all, Zhao Fu had said that he would leave after taking away the soul bellflower tree, and the 4 soul generals seemed quite angry, feeling that Zhao Fu had offended someone. From this, it could be deduced that there was definitely a soul bellflower tree. Along the way, Zhao Fu continued to extract soul generals, and the flower trees continuously withered, creating a poignant and beautiful scene. In the end, Zhao Fu and Lu Li came to the depths of the flower forest. What came into view was a sea of white bones that covered the ground. It was hard to tell how many there were at a glance. It was like a sea of bones. There were human bones, dragon bones, demon bones, giant bones, dwarf bones, orc bones, angel bones, beast bones, and so on. It was unknown how many bones there were, but they all had one thing in common, which was that their bones contained divine power. These were the bones of godly spirits. It was unknown how many godly spirits had died to form such a sea of bones, and seeing this scene, Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. The sky was a grayish white, and the sea of bones was deathly silent. The countless bones did not give off a deathly aura, but there was a bone-chilling feeling, as if one was in an ice purgatory, which was quite terrifying. Standing next to the sea of bones, Zhao Fu felt his hair stand on end. It was quite dangerous inside, and the soul bellflower tree was most likely within the sea of bones. Before, it had been said that the soul bellflower tree only grew in places where there were many godly spirits' corpses. Now that so many godly spirits had died here, just what sort of terrifying existence would the soul bellflower tree become? It was no wonder that such a large forest of flowers had been formed under its influence. Right now, Zhao Fu had not extracted all of the tree's souls. He had only extracted a small portion, which was enough to clear a path. There were still many trees that he had not extracted. This forest of flowers covered an area of 10,000 miles. It would take a very long time to extract the divine souls of so many flower trees. So Zhao Fu came to the depths of the flower forest in advance. Otherwise, by the time Zhao Fu finished extracting the divine souls, the competition might have already ended. Zhao Fu turned his head and looked at Lu Li beside him with a serious look. It may be very dangerous ahead. If you want to follow me in, then follow me closely and don't leave my side. Lu Li nodded seriously. Then, Zhao Fu and Lu Li flew into the Sea of Bones. They didn't encounter any danger, and the Sea of Bones was still dead silent. After more than an hour, Zhao Fu and Lu Li came to the depth of the Sea of Bones. It was very strange here. There was no bone on the ground, but a green grassland with a width of tens of thousands of meters. A tree grew in the middle of the green grassland. This tree was only a dozen meters high, with a trunk of 3 or 4 meters thick. The trunk was snow white, and its surface was smooth without any lines. It didn't feel like a tree trunk. The crown was very big, and it opened around like an umbrella. There were many small silver-white flowers blooming on it. Each flower had a divine character imprinted on it, and the divine characters flickered within them. Now, standing in the distance, Zhao Fu could smell the charming fragrance of the flowers. Just a slight sniff made him feel comfortable and relaxed, as if he was in heaven. Standing beside the grassland, Zhao Fu hesitated for a moment. He knew that it would be very dangerous ahead, but he had to go ahead. So, he lifted his feet and stepped into the grassland. However, nothing happened. Zhao Fu was a little surprised, but he continued to move forward. Seeing that nothing happened, Lu Li also followed behind Zhao Fu. The two walked forward, and each step was very careful. They were vigilant against accidents that might happen at any time, but in the end, nothing happened. In the end, Zhao Fu and Lu Li came to the front of the flower tree, which was only a dozen meters away from the tree. Ding-ling, ding-ling, ding-ling. At that moment, the flowering tree gently swayed, and the countless silver-white flowers gave off a clear sound. Each flower gave off a musical note, and the countless musical notes formed a melody that pulled people into a dream. Zhao Fu came to a place shrouded in fog, which was filled with dense white fog. He couldn't see the scenery in front of him clearly, and there were white bones on the ground. It was very humid here, and the air was filled with moisture. Howls could be heard from time to time. Seeing that he had come to this place, Zhao Fu knew that he had entered an illusion, but Zhao Fu wasn't afraid because Zhao Fu also had something to deal with illusions. Zhao Fu stood where he was and lightly shouted, "Sage mode, open." Boom! A powerful aura exploded out from Zhao Fu's body, and a massive celestial aura spread out like a tide. His body burned with a rainbow-colored aura flame. Not only did Sage Mode have a powerful mental defense, but it was also very effective against illusions. Ordinary illusions were useless against Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu could directly break through powerful illusions by activating Sage Mode. However, after Zhao Fu activated Sage Mode, his surroundings didn't change much. Zhao Fu didn't feel too nervous, and a wave of celestial power flowed into the glass pupil in his left eye. Zhao Fu also had the glass illusory pupil, which had powerful illusions. Moreover, it was a celestial technique, and it could easily break through all illusions. Zhao Fu's glass pupil gave off a rainbow-colored light, and everything around him collapsed and dissipated. In the end, Zhao Fu returned to his original place, which was in front of the flower tree. Zhao Fu turned his head to look at Lu Li, who was standing there like a statue. His face was very pale, and he was most likely trapped in an illusion. His godly soul and divine power were being greatly drained, and if this continued, he would definitely die here. Without any hesitation, Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and a massive wave of rainbow-colored power shot out and flowed into Lu Li's body. Lu Li quickly woke up and understood what had just happened. She was so scared that she broke out in a cold sweat, and she weakly said to Zhao Fu, "Thank you. You've saved me again." Zhao Fu laughed and said, "It's all right. You should recover your strength first." Lu Li nodded before turning and leaving this grassland. Now that she knew that it was very dangerous, she didn't want to cause trouble for Zhao Fu. After coming to the Sea of Bones, Lu Li sat cross-legged on the ground, took out a few medicinal pills and consumed them, and started to recover her strength. Zhao Fu looked at the flower tree in front of him. Chapter 21:10. Come out, I know of your existence. Your illusion is useless against me, Zhao Fu said seriously as he looked at the flowering tree. Zhao Fu could sense the flower ancestor's aura from the flowering tree, and Zhao Fu was quite familiar with this aura. Not only had he seen the first evil spirit abyss flower's flower ancestor, but he had also seen the golden flower ancestor. Even though the flower ancestor's aura was not as powerful as the evil spirit abyss flower ancestors, it was far more powerful than the golden flower ancestor's aura. The golden flower ancestor had grown for countless years and had relied on Zhao Fu's divine blood to become a flower ancestor. This flowering tree had been a flower ancestor for many years. It definitely had its own consciousness and should be able to communicate. Perhaps it could turn into a human form. Most flower ancestors had this ability. However, after waiting for a while, Zhao Fu did not receive a reply, making the situation quite awkward. Zhao Fu felt quite confused and wondered what was going on. Could it be that the flower ancestor did not want to talk to him? Zhao Fu continued onwards. Boom! At that moment, the flowering tree exploded out with a shocking aura and gave off countless traces of silver light. Divine runes lit up within the small flowers and shot out countless traces of light. Divine runes appeared in the air one after another. Each divine rune was extremely complex and profound. They gave off a silvery white light and surrounded the tree. They gave off a supreme divine might, as if they were the emperor of the gods. They made people want to kneel down and worship them. Zhao Fu felt quite shocked. This divine might was not inferior to the divine might given off by the god race's supreme emperor star. It was definitely a terrifying divine might. Lu Li, who had been cultivating in the Sea of Bones, sensed this boundless divine might and felt quite shocked. He opened his eyes and looked at the flowering tree surrounded by divine runes. So this is the true soul bell tree flower's power. It was the first time Lu Li had seen the soul bell tree flower's power. Before, he had only heard about it and felt quite shocked. As one of the 8 great wondrous flowers, it was indeed extraordinary. Now the flowering tree was giving off such a terrifying divine might that directly pressed down on Zhao Fu's body. This divine might was a type of pressure on one's body and mind, and ordinary geniuses would not be able to withstand it and would directly kneel on the ground. The void seemed to be filled with this kind of silvery white light. Space appeared to be distorted and solidified under this kind of divine power. The position near the tree and the position not near the tree were like 2 different worlds. At this time, Zhao Fu was suppressed by this pressure. Not to mention taking a step forward. Even standing up was very difficult. The peerless divine aura emitted by the flowering tree was powerful, but Zhao Fu was no ordinary person. He was also a very terrifying existence. It was absolutely impossible for Zhao Fu to kneel on the ground and submit to this supreme divine might. Boom! Under this terrifying divine might, Zhao Fu released all of his divine bloodline's power without holding back at all. A terrifying aura flowed out of Zhao Fu's body like a flood, and no one could resist it. Lu Li, who was recovering his strength in the Sea of Bones, was given a big fright when he sensed that powerful aura. He stood up from the ground and looked at Zhao Fu in shock. At that moment, Zhao Fu's body gave off an intense black light, and faint dragon inscriptions appeared as his aura became more and more powerful. Boom! His aura finally reached a critical point, and a black dragon inscription light beam shot into the sky, giving off a massive explosion as waves of black light rippled out. A massive black pillar of light formed and stood between the heavens and earth, giving off an arrogant and powerful aura. Boom! A transcendent pressure that was above all else, that was not bound by any laws, instantly enveloped the entire world, and the world froze in that instant. Within the secret realm, the countless terrifying geniuses, whether it was Mielu, God Ke, Lei Tianba, Yu Chan, or Shun Xianhua, all felt this might from a pure divine bloodline, and their expressions fell as they looked in that direction. A divine bloodline! Everyone looked in that direction, looking quite shocked. This competition between gods was incredibly intense, and even a holy sun was participating. Moreover, from this might, it was definitely not an ordinary holy sun, as people with two emperor stars, Tianyu and Yelu, also felt a wave of pressure. A holy sun came from a divine faction, which was much more powerful than an imperial faction. Even though they had emperor stars, they could not be careless. After all, their bloodlines were only at the peak of the imperial bloodline, and facing a divine bloodline, they would be suppressed. This was quite disadvantageous for them, and if they were careless, they could lose. Moreover, a holy sun had a higher chance of awakening an emperor star than an emperor star. Who knew if that holy sun had a supreme emperor star? God Ke and Sha Ming's expressions became quite serious. A holy sun's appearance meant that it would be even more difficult for them to obtain the Master of Gods. After all, not only would they have to face someone with two emperor stars, but they would also have to face a holy sun with a divine bloodline. If even those at the top felt like this, those at the bottom felt even more pressure. Now, they did not have much confidence in obtaining the Master of Gods because there were simply too many terrifying figures participating. The young man in green was the one who had obtained the Tree Lord God's legacy, and his name was Lu Ming. He had a divine bloodline, so he was quite sensitive to this aura. Now, Lu Ming's expression was quite unsightly. This holy sun's aura was much more powerful than his divine bloodline aura. Which terrifying figure from a divine faction was participating in this competition? Only a famous holy sun from a divine faction would have this kind of power. Otherwise, Lu Yin could not think of anyone with such terrifying holy sun's aura. Now, Lu Yin felt a headache coming on. There were simply too many changes. First, there were people continuously obtaining core gods' legacies, and now, such a powerful holy sun had appeared. His advantage was not very big. As for the few people hidden in the crowd, when they felt the aura, their expressions turned solemn. They did not dare to underestimate or be careless. This situation had greatly exceeded their expectations. With their status and power, they knew just how terrifying the person who gave off this aura was. News of a holy sun's appearance quickly spread throughout the secret realm, causing it to be sent into an uproar. Everyone looked incredibly excited, wanting to see what this legendary holy sun was like. At the same time, they felt even more anticipation. Now that a holy sun was participating, the battles in the later stages could only be described as incredibly wretched. These ordinary people did not even have a trace of hope of obtaining the Master of Gods. They were spectators, so they wanted to see who would obtain the Master of Gods and the terrifying battles between experts. Of course, there were also some people who could comprehend some things through the battles between powerhouses and thus increase their own strength. Chapter 2111. Needless to say, because of the appearance of a holy sun, the secret realm became even more lively. The experts' expressions were all serious, and they continuously wanted to increase their strength. The ordinary people looked quite excited, and they discussed this matter with others while searching for treasures. Many of the experts in the stands looked at the powerful black light pillar that was emitting terrifying fluctuations, and they were all shocked. They knew more than the others, and they also knew who was the one who emitted this black light pillar. Who would have thought that he would have a divine bloodline and be a holy son? Things are becoming quite interesting. It's quite rare to see so many holy sons participating in this competition. We felt that he wasn't simple at all. At first, we thought that he was someone from the Demon Emperor, but we underestimated his identity. However, this all explains why he has such great power. God Kerr has the power to devour 10,000 godly creatures, and this holy son also has the power to devour 10,000 godly creatures. Now that the two of them are clashing, there'll be a good show to watch. I wonder who will win. That's right. I thought that this person was inferior to God Kerr, but it seems that he's not any weaker than God Kerr. I don't know who will win either, but we'll find out when the time comes. It seems that the second King of Kings also has a divine bloodline, and this person has obtained so many god legacies. It's much more likely that he's the King of Kings. Flowingly looked at the intense black light emitted by the light beam in front of her and felt the terrifying fluctuations. Her body felt as if it had fallen into ice water, and her whole body began to tremble. She had never thought that a holy son like Zhao Fu would have such terrifying power. However, she understood why Zhao Fu was so mysterious and had such shocking power. The flower forest that ordinary people feared was useless against him. Boom! An explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu controlled this otherworldly might to blast against the soul bell tree flower. Bang! A shocking explosion sounded out as the two terrifying might collided. An extremely terrifying power exploded out, and the space around them seemed to collapse. The scene was incredibly terrifying. A trace of coldness appeared in Zhao Fu's eyes as he stepped forwards. Boom! The pressure that seemed to be above everything became even more terrifying as it heavily pressed down on the soul bell tree flower. The soul bell tree flower was unable to withstand this might, and the silver-white, divine runes around it started to crumble. More and more divine runes crumbled, and the might that the soul bell tree flower gave off became weaker and weaker. Finally, the might from the soul bell tree flower disappeared, and the entire soul bell tree flower was suppressed by Zhao Fu might. It seemed to be locked down and was unable to move at all. Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and walked in front of the soul bell flower's trunk. He pressed a hand against the trunk and sent a wave of energy into it. Zhao Fu's consciousness entered a world filled with soul bell flower trees. There were soul bell flower trees everywhere, creating a beautiful scene. The air was filled with the fragrance of flowers. Zhao Fu did not continue looking. He had already seen this sort of scene in the flower forest, but this one was even bigger and more shocking. Zhao Fu flew into the sky and continued onwards. Zhao Fu found an extremely beautiful woman lying on a bed. She had peerlessly beautiful looks and had silver white hair. There were a few faint green flowers on her head, and she wore a silver white dress. Her figure was mature, and she gave off a trace of an emperor's domineering aura. Zhao Fu found an extremely beautiful woman lying on a bed. This woman had peerlessly beautiful looks and had silver white hair. There were a few faint green flowers on her head, and she wore a silver white dress. She had a mature figure and gave off a trace of an emperor's domineering aura. After discovering this woman, Zhao Fu did not immediately go up. This woman was most likely the soul bell tree flower's soul, and if he rashly went up, he would be in great danger. After seeing this woman, Zhao Fu did not directly go up. This woman was most likely the soul bell tree flower's soul, and if he rashly went up, he would be in great danger. However, after waiting for a while, Zhao Fu did not hear anything, and the woman did not show any signs of waking up. He walked up to the woman. Her body was still emitting a faint fragrance, but she still didn't look like she was going to wake up. Zhao Fu felt quite confused. Just what was going on? Why was the soul bell tree flower's soul sleeping here and not waking up? Zhao Fu stretched out his hand and touched her face, feeling the warmth from her skin. He lightly stroked it and found that the soul bell tree flower still did not wake up. This was a great opportunity. Since she did not resist, she could not blame him for being despicable and taking advantage of her. Zhao Fu decided to first control her before waking her up. That way, he would be able to subdue her. Because the soul bell tree flower's power was incredibly terrifying, Zhao Fu planned to split off a six desires demonic seed to control her. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and a massive wave of six desires demonic qi flowed out, continuously condensing in his hand. It formed a black seed that was as big as a walnut, and it gave off a powerful demonic qi. Zhao Fu stretched out his hand to the woman's abdomen and pressed down, causing the black seed to enter her body. Following this, a wave of six desires demonic qi spread out and covered her entire body. Following this, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and did not withdraw his hand. A powerful wave of energy entered the woman's body, and Zhao Fu planned to wake her up. However, even though Zhao Fu sent a wave of energy into her body to wake her up, it was to no avail. Her consciousness space was completely silent and did not show any signs of movement. Zhao Fu stopped. Seeing that ordinary methods would not be able to wake her up, Zhao Fu thought of the Flower Celestial's power. The Flower Celestial was the goal of all flowers in the world. If he used the Flower Celestial's power as a catalyst, he would be able to wake the woman up. Zhao Fu's hand on the Flower Celestial's abdomen gave off a rainbow-colored light, and a wave of Flower Celestial's power flowed into the woman's body. The woman's consciousness space quickly reacted. The Flower Celestial's power was indeed useful. However, it seemed that the woman's consciousness had matured for too long, and only a trace of her consciousness had awakened. It would take a long time for her to fully awaken. Zhao Fu did not want this to continue, and he thought of another power, which was the God-killing power. The God-killing power greatly countered souls, and if he used its power, he would be able to stimulate the woman's consciousness and increase her stats. As such, Zhao Fu's hand on the woman's abdomen gave off traces of blood-red lightning that swam towards the woman's consciousness space. Under the stimulation of the lightning, the woman's consciousness greatly reacted. The woman's consciousness awakened in a small area. Zhao Fu had no idea how long she had matured for her to be in such a deep sleep. After a while, the woman still did not wake up. Zhao Fu thought of the final power, which was the Six Desires Demonic Qi's power. The Six Desires Demonic Qi greatly countered women, so it would be quite effective. Chapter 21:12. Thinking about that, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile. Looking at the woman's peerlessly beautiful looks, it was not inferior to Yu Chan's at all. It seemed that he would have to make another sacrifice. Zhao Fu leaned over and kissed the woman's lips, and a wave of Six Desires Demonic Qi continuously flowed into her body. The Six Desires Demonic seed within her body was affected and quickly grew. Under the stimulation of the three powers, the woman's consciousness was greatly awakened, and she instinctively responded to Zhao Fu. Her eyelashes slightly trembled, and in the end, the woman slowly opened her silver-white flower eyes. She immediately saw Zhao Fu's face and sensed what Zhao Fu had done to her. "Ha!" A clear sound rang out as the woman's gaze became cold, and she slapped Zhao Fu, sending Zhao Fu flying. Zhao Fu fell to the ground and felt the pain on his face. He looked quite surprised that he had been slapped by the woman. Zhao Fu had not expected the woman to wake up so quickly, so he had been caught off guard. Otherwise, with Zhao Fu's power, she would not have been able to hit Zhao Fu so easily. The woman sat up on the bed and looked at Zhao Fu with her silver-white flower eyes, looking quite angry as she said, "Who are you?" Zhao Fu touched his face, which was still in pain, and stood up from the ground. He was within the Soul Bell Flower Tree's consciousness space, so people outside could not know what was going on here. At that moment, Zhao Fu looked at the woman and said with a confident and domineering voice, "I am the ruler of the Qin Empire, and I woke you up from your slumber. Now, you belong to me." The woman said coldly, "Who belongs to you? You bastard! You dared to violate me while I was asleep. I'll kill you." The peerlessly beautiful woman said angrily as she raised her hand, preparing to attack Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu lightly laughed. Luckily, he had been prepared from the start, so he was not afraid at all. He directly activated the 6 desires demonic seed within the peerless woman's body. The peerless beauty, who had been giving off a massive aura and was about to attack, suddenly felt an evil energy spread out. Her body became hot and powerless, and her face became red. His strength was also rapidly weakening. Even if he wanted to attack Zhao Fu, he did not have much strength left. The peerless beauty's face flushed red with anger. "You bastard, what did you do to me?" Zhao Fu said with a smile. "I already said that I was the one who awakened you, so you belong to me now. There's no point in resisting now." The absolute beauty felt her body become hotter and hotter, and her body became even more powerless as she cursed, "You despicable person, perverted thief, doing such a thing to me." Zhao Fu smiled and did not say anything else as he continued to urge the 6 desires demonic seed to grow. The peerless beauty's body powerlessly lay on the bed. Her face was bright red as she panted and softly moaned. At that moment, Zhao Fu walked in front of the peerless beauty and pinched her chin as he lightly laughed and said, "There aren't many women in this world who would dare to slap my face. Today, you need to be punished." Following this, Zhao Fu started to train the peerless beauty. 3 hours later, the peerless beauty was naked, and her face was red as she panted in Zhao Fu's embrace. Zhao Fu also obtained information about the peerless beauty. Her name was Hualing. She was a very ancient soulbell tree flower. She was very powerful and had already reached the void realm. In the past, she was even more powerful. She was even more powerful than ordinary almighty beings. Her power was comparable to a half-immortal's. However, the secret realm did not allow such powerful existences to appear. Hualing had been heavily injured by the Pantheon mirror and had fallen into a deep sleep. Only now had she been woken up by Zhao Fu. Outside the world of consciousness, the soulbell tree flower's attacks had been instinctively unleashed by the soulbell tree flower and had not been controlled by Hualing. Zhao Fu now felt quite fortunate that Hualing had been heavily injured by the Pantheon mirror and her strength had fallen greatly. Otherwise, with her half-immortal strength, even if Zhao Fu had the 6 desires demonic qi, it would be useless. The difference in strength was simply too great. However, this was enough to prove just how terrifying Hualing's power had been back then, for the Pantheon mirror to suppress her. The Pantheon mirror was a supreme divine item in the godly world and had existed since the godly world had been born. Back then, that peerless genius had detonated the first god race, Supreme Emperor Star, and had not been able to harm the Pantheon mirror at all. It had unimaginably terrifying power. Moreover, Hualing herself was a void realm expert, which was above the Emperor Heaven realm. She had the strength to suppress ordinary Emperor Heaven realm experts, which would be of great help to Zhao Fu. If he brought her back, she would become a #1 expert in Qin City. The #1 expert in Qin City had been the demon domain's #1 beauty, Demoji. However, her cultivation was only at the peak of the Emperor Heaven realm and was just a bit away from breaking through to the void realm. Under normal circumstances, it was impossible for Zhao Fu to control an emptiness realm expert. First of all, they wouldn't just lie there and let you set down restrictions. Moreover, emptiness realm experts could easily break through restrictions, as emptiness realm experts were definitely many times more powerful than Zhao Fu. Now that Zhao Fu could control Hualing, he had a great advantage. She lay there and did not resist at all, allowing Zhao Fu to plant the 6 desires demonic seed in her. Secondly, Zhao Fu's power was incredibly great, and the 6 desires demonic seed was not an ordinary power. Finally, after sleeping for so many years, Hualing had not fully grasped her power yet, so she could not resist much. Apart from Hualing's power, she also had special abilities. Each of the 8 wondrous flowers had their own unique abilities, and the Soul Bell Tree Flower's ability was to give birth to godly souls. The Soul Bell Tree Flower could give birth to a large number of godly souls. These godly souls looked like ordinary godly souls, but their main use was to fuse into other people's bodies and give them a portion of godly soul's power. Even though, with Zhao Fu's current strength, ordinary godly souls were quite weak, they were still godly souls that countless commoners worshipped. They were lofty and powerful godly souls. Moreover, these godly souls had the power to devour godly souls, causing the soldiers who fused with godly souls to become even more powerful. If an army had godly souls' power and the ability to devour godly souls, the scene would be quite terrifying. It could be said that if they were nurtured, Qin City would have a powerful army, which was quite important to Qin City. Moreover, the Soul Bell Tree Flower could use soul sounds to create illusions. The little silver-white flowers that grew out of it could lightly sway and give off soul sounds. This was a sound that only souls could hear, and it was quite special and difficult to resist. Its power was naturally even more terrifying and could be used even more effectively. Chapter 21:13. However, only true Soul Bell Tree flowers had such an ability, and they were one of the 8 wondrous flowers. There were not many of them, so this ability was not very useful to Zhao Fu. Now, there were 5 wondrous flowers: Dark Night Flower, Evil Spirit Abyss Flower, Otherworld Gold Flower, and Soul Bell Tree Flower, and Zhao Fu was missing 3 more before he could gather the 8 wondrous flowers. Of the remaining 3, 1 was a devil attribute, 1 was a spirit attribute, and 1 was a water attribute. Collecting the 8 wondrous flowers would not only allow the flower fairy's power to quickly recover, but the 8 wondrous flowers' power would also be of great help to Qin. As such, Zhao Fu had to collect them all. Combining all of this information, it seemed that subduing the Soul Bell Tree Flower would be incredibly useful to Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu smiled and looked at Hualing, who was panting and not wearing any clothes, and said, "Put on your clothes and let's leave this place." Hualing glared at Zhao Fu and said angrily, "Who's going to leave with you?" Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he lifted her chin and said, "Don't blame me if you're still so stubborn." Hualing understood what Zhao Fu meant. She remembered how Zhao Fu had taught her, so she blushed and swatted away Zhao Fu's hand before angrily putting on her clothes. She had once been in existence that could rival a half-step celestial, and now she had to submit to Zhao Fu. She felt quite angry and could not accept this. Zhao Fu did not say anything else and smiled as he left the Soul Bell Tree Flower's mental world and returned to his body. In the real world, Zhao Fu withdrew his hand from the Soul Bell Tree Flower. The Soul Bell Tree Flower gave off a silver-white light and continuously changed before turning into Hualing's appearance. It was said that Hualing was a flower ancestor and was even older than the golden flower ancestor, so she could take human form. Now all the strange phenomena had disappeared. Luli looked at the scene in front of her in surprise. It seemed that Zhao Fu had subdued the Soul Bell Tree Flower. Luli wanted to congratulate him, but she suddenly thought of Zhao Fu's identity as a holy son, and she was just a maid beside him. The difference in their identities was too big, which made her a little hesitant. However, Luli thought of Zhao Fu's gentle attitude towards her. He should not be the kind of arrogant person who regarded her as a friend. So Luli still smiled and stepped forward. "Congratulations." He subdued the Soul Bell Tree Flower. At this moment, Zhao Fu smiled and pulled Hualing into his embrace. Hualing struggled a few times and found that she couldn't break free, so she could only let Zhao Fu hug her and look at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes. Hearing Lu Li's words, Zhao Fu replied, "Yeah, thank you." Looking at Hualing in Zhao Fu's embrace, Lu Li felt quite complicated and uncomfortable, and the smile on her face became quite stiff. At that moment, Zhao Fu lightly laughed and said, "Now that the greatest danger in the flower forest has been resolved, There might be some treasures within the flower forest. Let's go and have a look. Perhaps we'll have great gains. Luli returned to normal and happily smiled as she nodded. At that moment, Hualing lightly harumphed and said, "Where I grew up, there are many god source bones, which are incredibly precious materials." Zhao Fu felt quite surprised and looked to Hualing in his embrace. He had never thought that she would take the initiative to say that there were good things there. Hualing turned her face away. She did not want to give such precious materials to others. Moreover, she was now Zhao Fu's woman, and even though she was quite unwilling, this was the truth. As such, she was thinking for Zhao Fu's sake. Zhao Fu lightly laughed and let go of Hualing before waving his hand towards the place where Hualing had grown up. A wave of energy rippled out, tearing open the ground and revealing many platinum-colored bones. God source bones were formed from countless godly spirit bones, and they were incredibly precious. They could be used to forge Emperor Heaven armaments, and ordinary people would not be able to obtain them or even see them before. The platinum-colored bones came in all sorts of shapes. There were skulls, hand bones, foot bones, and even wild beast bones. Zhao Fu put away all of the bones, and there were 160 or so of them in total. Zhao Fu took out 3 and handed them to Luli as he said, "This is for you." Luli gave a delighted smile. These god source bones were incredibly precious to her, and she had never thought that Zhao Fu would give them to her. Luli felt that she had not done anything for Zhao Fu. Yet Zhao Fu had saved her twice, making her feel quite embarrassed. Zhao Fu could tell what Luli was thinking and lightly laughed as he said, "It's fate that we've met, and there are many of these things." Luli did not refuse and smiled as she said, "Thank you." Following this, Zhao Fu and Luli went to other places and obtained some good things. Zhao Fu looked at Luli and smiled as he said, "I'll extract some godly spirits before leaving this place. We'll meet again in the future if fate allows it." Now that he had subdued the soul bell tree flower and obtained many benefits, Zhao Fu's quest had been completed. As such, he would immediately leave and continue to search for the core god's legacy land, as well as plunder the godly spirit's divine power. Moreover, Zhao Fu knew Lu Li's identity, and she was not Zhao Fu's subordinate, so it was impossible for Zhao Fu to always take her with him. Lu Li saw that the smile on Zhao Fu's face had faded, and she felt a trace of reluctance in her heart. However, she understood that Zhao Fu and her were not the same kind of people. Moreover, she was Mielu's maidservant, and her role was to stay by Mielu's side. It was impossible for her to leave with Zhao Fu. In the end, Lu Li gave a faint smile and nodded as she said, "We'll meet again in the future if fate allows it." Zhao Fu hugged Hualing and flew to a highland forest of flowers, and he stretched out a hand, preparing to extract the godly spirits of the flowers. Only now did Hualing understand why Zhao Fu wanted to extract the godly spirits. She understood that if these godly spirits were extracted, the flowers would all die, so she stopped Zhao Fu and said, "You can't do this." Zhao Fu looked quite startled and immediately understood Hualing's intentions. These flowers were closely related to Hualing, and if he wanted to extract the godly spirits of these flowers, Hualing naturally did not want to see Zhao Fu do this. Looking at Hualing's angry expression, Zhao Fu lightly laughed. Now that he had obtained Hualing, these godly spirits were not as attractive to Zhao Fu as before. Moreover, Zhao Fu would leave after extracting a bit more souls. He would not stay here for too long, as that would waste too much time. Zhao Fu had more important things to do. Zhao Fu looked at Hualing and smiled as he said, "All right, I won't extract the godly spirits anymore. I won't extract your divine soul anymore. Let's leave this place." Hualing felt quite surprised. She had never thought that Zhao Fu would agree so quickly. She had thought that Zhao Fu would forcefully extract the godly spirits, and she would do her best to stop Zhao Fu. However, none of this had happened. Now, Hualing looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes, and her anger towards Zhao Fu slightly subsided. At that moment, the flowers sensed Hualing's aura and felt that something had happened. Chapter 21:14. Boom. Boom. Waves of powerful auras exploded out as hundred-year-old trees gave off a silver-white light. Godly spirit soldiers wearing armor and holding weapons walked out of the trees, giving off powerful divine power. We greet Lord. The countless divine souls knelt on one knee and looked incredibly respectful. Their gazes burned with adoration as they called out in unison. These divine souls had all been formed by Hua Ling's power. Hua Ling was the person who created them, and their power came from Hua Ling. As such, the countless divine souls instinctively respected Hua Ling. Moreover, Hua Ling herself could control these divine souls. These were all hundred-year-old trees, and because the divine souls were already very powerful, they could condense into human shapes. Those that were only a few decades old were still orbs of light and could not leave the tree. Zhao Fu felt quite surprised as he looked at the divine souls that covered the entire mountain range. They all knelt on one knee and gave off silver-white light, creating a shocking scene. There were roughly millions of divine souls. These millions of divine souls were incredibly powerful, and if they worked together, even Zhao Fu would not be able to deal with them easily. In fact, he might not even be able to defeat them. Hua Ling could clearly sense the emotions of the trees, so seeing the divine souls appear, she did not seem surprised at all. Zhao Fu thought about it and stretched out a hand, causing a black wave of energy to spread out. 4 large black holes appeared in the ground, and 4 divine soul generals bound by chains slowly floated out. The 4 divine soul generals had been furiously struggling, wanting to break free from the countless chains binding them. However, when they saw the person in front of them, they immediately looked delighted and lowered their heads as they respectfully called out, "Master!" They were soul generals guarding Hua Ling in 4 directions, and Zhao Fu felt that their relationship with Hua Ling would be closer. As such, they would most likely listen to Hua Ling's orders. Everything was as Zhao Fu had thought. As long as he could subdue Hua Ling, he would be able to subdue all of the divine souls. Hua Ling looked at the 4 divine soul generals and gave a trace of smile. Back when she had been asleep, she had split off some of her power and sent it into their bodies so that they could protect her. After so many years, the 4 divine soul generals had become so powerful, but they still couldn't resist Zhao Fu. Hua Ling also understood that Zhao Fu was extremely terrifying. Putting aside the fact that he had relied on despicable methods to subdue her, Hua Ling would have taken some protective measures to protect herself while she was asleep. In other words, it was the ability to use sound to create illusions, as well as that supreme divine might. That illusion was incredibly powerful, and the boundless divine might was even more terrifying. It contained the god race's source energy and could rival the might from the god race's supreme Emperor Star. The Soul Bell Tree Flower was first formed in that earth-shattering war, which was also the war that the peerless genius had led countless experts to wage against the Pantheon Mirror. It grew and metamorphosed amidst the corpses of countless experts. Back then, the Pantheon Mirror had given off an unimaginably divine might and a powerful creation god's power. It had sealed 25 main gods, and the soul bell flowers within the countless corpses had been affected by the Pantheon Mirror's power, forming the soul bell flowers. Of course, Hua Ling was not the original soul bell tree flower, but that power had been passed down, which was why it had given off such terrifying divine might. However, that supreme divine might have been suppressed by Zhao Fu's bloodline's might. She could not help but wonder what sort of monster Zhao Fu was. If she had not personally experienced it, Hua Ling would not have believed this to be true. Now that 4 powerful godly soul generals had fallen at Zhao Fu's hands, Hua Ling did not feel that it was strange. She had thought that Zhao Fu had killed the 4 godly soul generals. Hua Ling looked at Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu understood and released the chains binding the 4 godly soul generals. The 4 godly soul generals knelt on the ground, looking incredibly respectful and joyful. Their master, who they had protected for so long, had finally woken up. To them, this was the happiest thing. Hua Ling was the center of all the godly soul generals, and the godly soul generals treated her as their master and were willing to listen to her. Looking at the 4 godly soul generals and the countless godly soul soldiers, Zhao Fu thought for a moment before asking seriously, "Are you willing to leave this place with me? We are willing to follow our master." The 4 godly soul generals and countless godly soul soldiers knelt on the ground and shouted in unison, their voices shaking the surroundings. Standing in front of the countless kneeling godly soul generals, Hua Ling had a trace of a smile on her face. She was like an empress, giving off a domineering and mighty aura. Zhao Fu could sense her aura from behind her. Hua Ling herself had a powerful empress aura, and her fate was also empress fate. If it was not for Zhao Fu subduing her, she would have definitely become an empress in the future. Boom! At that moment, Hua Ling stretched out a hand, and a massive silver-white energy flowed out. Divine runes flickered in the sky, covering the entire sky, and a shocking aura spread out. Swish, swish, swish! The divine runes were like tiny rays of light that fell on the trees on the ground, causing them to give off an even more intense silver-white light, causing the ground to become a sea of light. Countless souls stood up from the ground and returned to the flowering trees. Then, the flowering trees began to change and condense. The flowering trees turned into lychee-sized, diamond-shaped, silver-white seeds. The trees had all disappeared, making this place seem quite spacious. However, not all of the trees had disappeared, and some trees that had been around for decades remained. This was because these trees' godly souls were too weak and could not be taken away, so they could only remain here. There were still many of these trees, and the power that they gave off to devour godly souls was quite powerful. Ordinary people definitely would not dare to get close to this place. Without Hua Ling, a true soul bell tree, this region's power would greatly decrease in the future. However, as long as these trees continue to grow, this place would become a terrifying forbidden region. Of course, this was not something that Zhao Fu needed to worry about. Hua Ling waved her hand, and the silver-white seeds floating in the air all flew towards her before disappearing. She only needed to bring these seeds back and plant them on the ground. They would form a forest of flowers, and the godly souls would not be weakened. Following this, Hua Ling would use this forest to nurture countless godly souls and create a godly spirit army. After putting away all of the seeds, Hua Ling gave a trace of a smile, seeming quite good. Zhao Fu lightly laughed as he said, "Now that we've dealt with the forest of flowers, let's leave this place." Hua Ling turned and looked at Zhao Fu with her beautiful eyes as she said, "Where are we going? And what are you going to do next?" Chapter 21:15. Zhao Fu briefly explained his plan. He told Hua Ling to wait for him at a certain place and introduce a few people to her. Zhao Fu would continue to search for the god's legacy and the godly power of the gods. However, Hua Ling did not want this at all. She said, "I don't want to wait for you at a certain place. After sleeping for so long, I want to look around. I can help you find the god's legacy and snatch the godly power of the gods." Zhao Fu thought that Hua Ling, as someone from the secret realm, would naturally know more than Zhao Fu. Moreover, she was an emptiness realm cultivator and was more powerful than him. Therefore, Zhao Fu nodded and agreed. Now, the first stage of the competition had begun. Only those with blue marks could stay in the secret realm. Those with white marks would be forcefully teleported out of the secret realm. Everyone could not stay in the secret realm. They could only fight and raise their marks to the blue level. This caused the secret realm to become chaotic. Fights broke out everywhere. Some people even started to form groups. A group of people was definitely more powerful than a single person. Therefore, they formed groups to bully a single person. They wanted to raise their marks to the blue level. Moreover, there were no restrictions. Others could do this. However, this was only done by the weaker ones. Some experts disdained to do this. Those who were surrounded by a group of people had no chance of winning, unless they were someone like Zhao Fu. On a flat piece of land, a few groups of people were fighting and powerful auras spread out. waves of powerful power spread out, creating shockwaves. Boom! A powerful explosion sounded out as a massive aura pressed down on the countless people's bodies like a massive hand. Everyone's bodies froze as they felt terror. Everyone looked up and saw two people appear in the sky. One of them was wearing a cloak. They recognized him as a god Caesar. As for the other person, they did not know her at all. They had never seen or heard of her before. The woman was extremely beautiful and gave off a terrifying aura. This aura was actually the aura of an emptiness realm expert. Oh my god, this is actually the pressure of an emptiness realm expert. However, how could there be someone with such a terrifying cultivation in the secret realm? The secret realm has always restricted people above the Emperor Heaven realm from participating in the competition of the gods. Now that a void realm expert has appeared, I can't figure out who could hide their strength and enter. I don't think so. The entrance to the secret plane is controlled by the Pantheon Mirror. Who in the world can hide from the Pantheon Mirror? That's impossible. I also think that it's impossible for her to have hidden her strength and come in. She must be someone from the arcane realm, which is why she has such terrifying strength. If that's the case, it makes sense. What's the relationship between the God Stealer and this person? They actually appeared together. Oh right, could it be that the deity Snatcher was afraid of Lei Tianba and asked an emptiness realm expert to support him? That is possible. After all, Lei Tianba is too powerful. Humans would definitely be afraid of him. However, the Divine Snatcher has the support of an emptiness realm expert. He can do whatever he wants in the secret realm. How envious! The Soul Snatcher actually managed to hook up with a concealed stage expert. Next up, there is no need to worry about anything else. All he has to do is lie down and win. Now that Zhao Fu had such a powerful person with him, there was no need for Zhao Fu to do anything. It would be too wasteful if he didn't use it. Therefore, he let Hua Ling exert her pressure. Her pressure would make people more fearful, making it easier for them to hand over their godly power. The crowd was confused. It wasn't that Zhao Fu was currying favor with the Emptiness Realm expert. Instead, it was Zhao Fu who was the Emptiness Realm expert's master. If this were spread out, it would probably scare people. It was like a dream for an extreme Divine Realm expert to subdue an Emptiness Realm expert. With a smile on his face, Zhao Fu looked at the many deities below and said, "I don't want to talk nonsense. Hand over your godly power." The many deities immediately reacted and began to condense their godly power. Under the pressure of the Emptiness Realm expert, no one had any objections. After condensing the many godly power balls, the deities threw them. The godly power balls glowed with different colors and flew toward Zhao Fu. With a wave of his hand, Zhao Fu kept all the godly power balls into his storage ring. Following this, Zhao Fu took Hua Ling and left the place, not staying for a moment. Everyone let out a sigh of relief. The news that a God Stealer had brought along an Emptiness Realm expert quickly spread. Countless people were shocked. An Emptiness Realm expert's power was far more terrifying than an Emperor Heaven Realm expert's power. Ordinary Emperor Heaven Realm experts would take a detour if they met an Emptiness Realm expert, as they would not be able to fight against an Emptiness Realm expert. Even peerless geniuses would not dare to be careless when facing an Emptiness Realm expert. An Emptiness Realm expert was enough to threaten their position. Now that an Emptiness Realm expert had suddenly appeared in the secret realm, it was simply too unexpected. That Emptiness Realm expert had instantly become the person with the highest cultivation in the secret realm, and everyone could not help but feel afraid. If they met such an existence, they would only be crushed. At the same time, everyone felt envious of Zhao Fu. With the help of such a powerful person, Zhao Fu would definitely be able to pass the final trial. Moreover, no one would dare to offend him in the secret realm, and he would not have to be afraid no matter where he went. Just thinking about this felt incredibly good, and there was nothing to worry about. They did not know how Zhao Fu had managed to curry favor with an Emptiness Realm expert. Now, they could curry favor with one as well, and Zhao Fu would not have to do anything. It was a pity that there were Emptiness Realm experts in the secret realm. They had heard that there were very few of them, so how could they curry favor with an emptiness realm expert and have her help them? Everyone could only think about it, but to them, this was impossible. After hearing about this, Lei Tianba's expression became quite unsightly, and his heart was filled with anger. This god-stealer had found an emptiness realm expert to support him, so if he wanted to teach Zhao Fu a lesson, he would have to defeat an emptiness realm expert. An emptiness realm expert was incredibly powerful, and he would not be able to easily deal with one. Moreover, this was an emptiness realm expert in the secret realm, which meant that this person was even more powerful than an ordinary emptiness realm expert. Was he going to give up on teaching Zhao Fu a lesson? That was simply impossible, and Lei Tianba could not swallow his anger. He decided to teach Zhao Fu a lesson when he had the chance and make him suffer from his fury. Lei Tianba did not plan on continuing to chase after Zhao Fu. After chasing for so long, he still had not caught up to him, and now that Zhao Fu had another emptiness realm expert, he was in a very disadvantageous situation. Not only was it possible that he would not be able to find Zhao Fu, but it was also possible that he would not be able to defeat the emptiness realm expert after finding Zhao Fu. That would be too humiliating. As such, he decided to increase his faction while paying attention to any news related to Zhao Fu. God Kerr also heard about this, and his expression became quite unsightly. Now that Zhao Fu had the help of an expert, it would be even more difficult for him to deal with Zhao Fu. Just like everyone else, it was Zhao Fu who had subdued Hua Ling, not sucking up to her. Chapter 21:16. As for the reason, it was because an extreme divine realm expert could not possibly control an emptiness realm expert. Everyone was shocked by this news, and they started a fight. Explosions continuously sounded out as terrifying shockwaves spread out, and intense battles broke out everywhere. Those who were not very powerful and those who surrendered were all teleported to the platform outside the secret realm. Now that these people had come out, it was impossible for them to enter again. They had no fate with the master of the gods. Zhao Fu and Hualing flew to a remote area. This time, Zhao Fu had plundered a lot of godly powers and wanted to fuse them into his body in this place. Hualing watched in shock as Zhao Fu sat cross-legged on the ground and fused the godly powers into his body. How do you have this ability? This is the first time I've seen someone who can devour 10,000 gods to grow. Zhao Fu sat cross-legged on the ground and smiled. There are many reasons. I will tell you when I have time. Hualing continued to ask, how strong is your godly power now? If you can obtain the godly powers inherited by the 24 over-gods and the godly powers here, your power should be able to become the supreme godly power in the godly realm. It will not be weaker than the creation god power given by the Pantheon mirror. Zhao Fu smiled as he absorbed the godly powers. He had said something like this before. Sooner or later, his godly power would become the supreme godly power in the godly realm. Now, Zhao Fu was confident. However, Zhao Fu did not understand what Hualing meant by the creation god power, so he asked. Hualing gave a simple explanation. The creation god power was a type of godly power given by the Pantheon mirror. It was also the supreme godly power in the godly realm. Not only was it very powerful, but it could also make countless people into gods. Back then, the 25 over-gods used the creation god power to make countless people into gods, thus starting the era of gods. This kind of creation god power was not passed down. In so many years, only the Lord gods had this kind of power. There was no one else who had pure creation god power. The first soul bell tree flower grew amidst the flesh and blood of countless experts. Under the influence of the Pantheon mirror's creation god power, it became the soul bell tree flower. Right now, the soul bell tree flower had this kind of creation god power, but after some changes, it was unable to directly seal people as gods, but it could create countless divine souls. As for Zhao Fu's 10,000 deities power, when it matured, it would also have such terrifying power. After hearing Hua Ling's explanation, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and focused on fusing the various divine powers. Following that, Zhao Fu and his soul power continued forward, and under Hua Ling's senses, he found an entrance to the land of inheritance. This was a green piece of wood that was hundreds of meters wide and was shaped like a hexagon. It floated in the air and gave off an intense green light. It also gave off an incredibly powerful aura, making people feel quite shocked. Zhao Fu did not hesitate and flew forward with Hua Ling Boom. The hexagon gave off a massive power and gave off an even more blinding green light. This light shone on the ground, causing plants to quickly grow, and large amounts of plants grew in places where there were no plants. This green light had the ability to turn objects into plants. If a creature was hit by it, its body would grow plants and it would die in pain. When the green light shone on Zhao Fu's body, Zhao Fu felt a wave of plant power stab into his skin. He immediately released a defensive barrier, blocking off all of the green light, and he flew into a space filled with large trees. This was the legacy land of a tree core god. The attack power of trees was average, and it was life energy. The stone statue was of an elder who looked around 60 years old. He wore a long robe and held a wooden staff. His hair seemed to have many leaves, and his body gave off a powerful, godly spirit aura. After obtaining so much legacy power, Zhao Fu did not hesitate and flew towards the stone statue, while Hua Ling waited there. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the stone statue gave off an intense green light. Leaves appeared in the air, covering the entire sky. All of them gave off a trace of cold light and were incredibly sharp. Swish, swish, swish. The green leaves gave off sharp power and shot toward Zhao Fu incredibly quickly, leaving behind rays of green light that seemed to be able to cut through everything. Zhao Fu's expression did not change, and he did not even use the Emperor Killing Sword. He directly activated Celestial Mode, and a massive wave of power exploded out from Zhao Fu's body as a rainbow-colored ring of runes appeared. Boom! A massive wave of celestial power flowed into the circle of runes, causing the rainbow-colored circle of runes to give off terrifying power. It became many times bigger and started to spin, giving off a terrifying wave of power. Bang! Bang! The green leaves giving off cold light were shattered by that terrifying power, turning into motes of light and dissipating, and they were not able to harm Zhao Fu at all. Zhao Fu continued to fly forwards, and a massive might blasted against Zhao Fu's body. The elderly man's stone statue gave off an intense green light and a massive aura, and a green magic formation appeared, giving off a faint green light and a powerful life force. Zhao Fu was prepared for this, and he flew down from the sky. He resisted the massive pressure and easily came before the stone statue. The stone statue looked down at Zhao Fu and was not surprised. Its forehead gave off a green light, and a powerful wave of tree power spread out. Boom! A green ray of light containing immense power and a shocking aura quickly shot towards Zhao Fu's body, and a powerful wave of ancient tree god's power continuously flowed into Zhao Fu's body. Following this, 2 more explosions sounded out as 2 more rays of light shot out from the stone statue's forehead, giving Zhao Fu 3 legacy powers in total. After giving Zhao Fu all of the legacy powers, the aura and light that the stone statue gave off quickly became weaker. Within the secret realm, the hexagonal piece of wood gave off an intense green light and a shocking aura as it turned into a ray of light and shot into the sky. Bang! A massive sound rang out as the green orb of light exploded, and a wave of green light blasted out with unstoppable force. A powerful aura blasted out, and a wave of tree power also spread out. There were 24 magic circles in the sky, and one of them gave off a green light. It was as if the circle was filled with green light. Chapter 21:17. This was the 7th chief god's legacy power, and out of the 24 chief god's legacies, there were only 17 left. After obtaining this legacy, Zhao Fu continued to take Hua Ling to plunder other godly spirits' divine power and to search for the chief god's legacy land. 3 days later, a massive explosion sounded out as the massive 24-circle magic formation in the sky slowly spun, and a massive power spread out, covering the entire secret realm. Some of the people in the secret realm were covered by this power and felt as if they were being forcefully pulled, causing them to disappear. Now that 3 days had passed, those who had not raised their Pantheon mark to blue grade were all forcefully teleported out of the secret realm. Those who were able to stay in the secret realm were all at least blue grade. After successfully passing the first stage, everyone let out a sigh of relief and hoped that the second stage would not come so soon. At that moment, Zhao Fu came to a valley in delight. As expected, there were many benefits to bringing Hua Ling with him. Under Hua Ling's guidance, Zhao Fu found a chief god's legacy land. In front of Zhao Fu was a massive earthen orb that gave off an intense yellow light. It gave off a heavy aura, and the ground seemed to be unable to withstand this aura. Cracks appeared on the ground, and some trees and rocks were crushed into pieces. This was most likely a Earth Chief God's legacy land, and Zhao Fu wanted to see if he could obtain Earth spiritual power by obtaining the Earth legacy power. The Earth Chief God was of the Earth element, so if he obtained the Earth legacy power, he should be able to obtain Earth spiritual power. Before, Zhao Fu had obtained Yin and Yang powers by obtaining the Sun legacy power and Moon legacy power. Zhao Fu now had the Yin-Yang soul fire, the metal bone, the wood body, and the water blood. He was only lacking earth and fire spiritual power. This was the perfect time to obtain earth spiritual power through the earth legacy power. Zhao Fu brought Hua Ling and flew over. The massive ball of earth gave off an intense yellow light and gave off a terrifying gravitational force that covered the surroundings. The air seemed to twist, and the ground below continuously collapsed, giving off massive sounds. Zhao Fu used a defensive barrier to resist the gravity and easily flew into the earthen ball. The two of them came to a space where the sky gave off a yellow light. The ground was made of rocks, and there were no plants. There was also a stone statue. The stone statue was a short and fat elder with a kind face. He wore ancient clothes, and his body gave off a yellow light and an earthly aura. A powerful godly spirits might covered the surroundings. There were already some people in the great Earth God's legacy space. They wore yellow robes and gave off the great Earth God's aura. It seemed that they belonged to a faction. Moreover, their auras were very strong, which meant that their faction should be very powerful in the God world. Otherwise, they would not be able to nurture such powerful people. Zhao Fu was about to approach. However, that group of people blocked in front of Zhao Fu. A valiant-looking young man said rudely, "This is our territory. Please leave, or else don't blame us." Zhao Fu frowned. This was a legacy land, and anyone with ability could obtain legacies. Even with his strength, he had never taken the initiative to chase people away, and yet these people were so domineering, saying that this was their territory and telling him to leave. By now, there were already a few people undergoing trials. These people most likely wanted to take over this legacy land so that their people could obtain all of the legacy power. Zhao Fu looked at that group of people and said unhappily, "Scram before I get angry." These words caused those people to look quite furious, and the valiant-looking young man said, "Kill those two." Boom, boom, boom. Those people gave off powerful auras and directly attacked Zhao Fu. Immense power entered their weapons, and cold lights ferociously slashed towards Zhao Fu, giving off massive sounds. Those people had traces of smiles on their faces. With so many attacks landing on that person's body, even if that person did not die, he would at least be heavily injured. However, after the lights dissipated, Zhao Fu was completely fine. A rainbow-colored energy barrier protected Zhao Fu, blocking all of the attacks. Everyone looked quite confused. They had never thought that Zhao Fu would have such great power. Hua Ling lightly laughed. These people did not even know Zhao Fu and dared to act so domineeringly in front of Zhao Fu. They were simply seeking death, and Hualing looked quite amused. Zhao Fu looked at them condescendingly. He was now in celestial mode, and he raised a hand. A powerful wave of power gathered, and his palm gave off a rainbow-colored aura as he vigorously slapped forwards. Boom! A massive rainbow-colored power gave off a ferocious aura as it rushed forwards. The valiant-looking young man and the others' expressions fell, and they hurriedly unleashed yellow defensive barriers. Bang! 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 The yellow defensive barriers were shattered, resulting in massive sounds. The people were sent flying back dozens of meters, and a trace of blood leaked out of their mouths as they looked at Zhao Fu with unsightly expressions. They had indeed offended a terrifying person this time, and the situation had become quite difficult to deal with. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed, but did not stop. His body disappeared and reappeared in front of the valiant-looking young man, and he vigorously kicked at the valiant-looking young man's body. Bang! A muffled explosion sounded out as the valiant-looking young man's body quickly flew backwards, smashing open a large crater on the ground. It was unknown if he was dead or alive. Zhao Fu punched out, hitting another person's chest. A few ribs on that person's chest were broken, and his body flew back. The others looked quite afraid because the power that Zhao Fu had temporarily released was simply too great. Bang! 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 Zhao Fu continuously unleashed attacks, sending massive waves of power towards the group of people. Those people were unable to defend at all, and they were all heavily injured as they fell to the ground. Not a single one of them was able to escape. The people who had been taking the test noticed what was happening, and they could only temporarily stop attacking and fly over to Zhao Fu. There were 5 of them, 3 men and 2 women, and the leader was a fair-skinned young man. The auras that they gave off were much more powerful than the others. The fair-skinned young man looked at Zhao Fu, and his expression was quite unsightly as he said, "You are that god stealer." With Zhao Fu's fame, ordinary people might not recognize Zhao Fu, but with the fair-skinned young man's status and power, it was impossible for him not to know Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu looked at the fair-skinned young man and coldly replied, "Mm." The fair-skinned young man looked at Hualing, who was behind Zhao Fu, and said, "My people offended you just now. I'm very sorry." Even if the fair-skinned young man did not apologize, there was nothing he could do. It was rumored that Zhao Fu alone had the power of an exceptional genius, and he also had an emptiness realm expert by his side. Ordinary exceptional geniuses would not dare to offend him. Chapter 21:18. The fair-skinned young man was incredibly powerful, but facing a void realm expert, he could only be suppressed. They could not afford to offend such a person. If they did not apologize and offended such a person, it was possible that they would not be able to escape and would most likely die here. The fair-skinned young man and the others all looked quite fearful. They had already been taught a lesson by Zhao Fu, and Zhao Fu had vented his anger. They could only hope that things would end here and that Zhao Fu would not pursue this matter. Zhao Fu glanced at them and ignored them. If they did not apologize, Zhao Fu would not mind heavily injuring them. Following this, Zhao Fu gave off a powerful aura as he flew over and came before the stone statue. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the stone statue gave off an intense yellow light and a massive earthen aura spread out. The ground continuously trembled as dirt continuously gathered, forming a dirt giant that was hundreds of meters tall. It gave off a massive aura and a powerful aura of suppression, making people feel quite afraid. Zhao Fu did not mind and took out the Emperor Killing Sword and casually slashed out. A sword hum sounded out as a black crescent containing immense power slashed out, hitting the earthen giant's abdomen and splitting it in half, causing it to collapse. Boom! Another massive aura spread out as the dirt quickly gathered, forming a massive dirt giant. It raised its hand and gave off terrifying power as it slashed toward Zhao Fu. Zhao Fu held his sword and his expression did not change. His body slowly floated forwards and he vigorously slashed out sending out a powerful black sword light that slashed against the dirt giant's chest. Bang! A massive sound rang out as the earth giant was once again split in half by Zhao Fu's strike. It turned into countless chunks of earth and collapsed, causing dust to fly everywhere. Boom! Boom! Massive sounds continuously sounded out as dirt giants that were hundreds of meters tall continuously formed, giving off terrifying power. Their auras flooded out, shaking the surroundings. Zhao Fu's expression did not change as he floated forwards and continuously slashed out sword lights with the Emperor-killing sword. Bang! 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 Massive sounds continuously sounded out as the dirt giants giving off immense power and charging at Zhao Fu were slashed apart. Their bodies crumbled and turned into dirt, causing dust to fill the air. In the end, Zhao Fu floated in front of the stone statue, which once again gave off a massive might and blasted against Zhao Fu's body. However, Zhao Fu descended from the sky as if nothing had happened and walked in front of the stone statue. The stone statue looked down at Zhao Fu and gave a pleased smile. A yellow light came from its forehead and a wave of earthen power spread out. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a yellow ray of light shot out from the statue's forehead, giving off a massive aura as it shot toward Zhao Fu. It was incredibly fast, and in just an instant, a massive amount of earthen power entered Zhao Fu's body. Sensing the massive power in his body, Zhao Fu smirked and closed his eyes as he focused on absorbing this earthen god's power. Zhao Fu's body gave off a yellow light as his body was filled with earthen power, and his body gave off a powerful earthen aura. By now, the fair-skinned young man had already saved the people who had been heavily injured by Zhao Fu. Seeing Zhao Fu obtain the god's legacy power so quickly, everyone felt quite shocked. Those rumors had been true, that God Caesar had the same power as a peerless genius. Fortunately, there had not been too much conflict with him, or else the outcome would have been quite tragic. Back then, some people had felt that the fair-skinned young man apologizing to Zhao Fu was too shameful. After all, their faction was a famous faction in the godly world, and they were usually the ones bullying others. Now that Zhao Fu had not only hit their people, but they had also taken the initiative to apologize, they felt incredibly disgraced. Moreover, they had only heard about how powerful Zhao Fu was and how he had an emptiness realm expert by his side. However, they had not seen it for themselves, so they could not tell if it was true or not. They had wanted to attack Zhao Fu, but the fair-skinned young man had taken the initiative to apologize. The fair-skinned young man was the person with the highest status and was also the most powerful person in the faction. Since the fair-skinned young man was their leader, they could only endure it. Now, it seemed that the fair-skinned young man's decision was right. Boom! At this moment, the stone statue's forehead gave off an even brighter yellow light, and an even more powerful aura spread out. A yellow light shot out with the enormous power of the earth and landed on Zhao Fu's body, and a massive amount of power flowed into him. Zhao Fu frowned. The earthen god was very powerful, and its element was also of the earth element. However, it did not give Zhao Fu the power of the spirit of the earth. Instead, it gave Zhao Fu the power of the god of the earth. The power of the god of the earth and the power of the spirit of the earth were two completely different types of power. One belonged to a deity, while the other belonged to a spiritual body. Zhao Fu had thought wrongly. He could not obtain the power of the god of the earth to obtain the power of the god of the earth. However, when he obtained the power of the sun and the god of the moon, why did he obtain the power of yin and yang? After thinking about it, Zhao Fu realized that the Tai Chi diagram on his chest had been very useful. It had transformed a portion of the two types of godly power into pure yin and yang spirit energy. The Tai Chi diagram itself was of the yin and yang element, so it could transform them. However, it was not of the earth element, so it could not transform the spirit energy of the earth element. It seemed that he would not be able to obtain the remaining earth and fire spirit energy in the godly realm, so he would have to go to the spirit domain. After awakening the God race's Emperor Star, Zhao Fu definitely had to go to the spirit domain because he needed to awaken the spirit race's Emperor Star. After awakening the God race's Emperor Star, only the spirit race's Emperor Star and the water race's Emperor Star remained. Zhao Fu did not know how to awaken the water race's Emperor Star, so he did not know how to awaken it. As for the spirit race's Emperor Star, Zhao Fu had already found an opportunity, which was to obtain the yin-yang 5 elements constitution. If he continued, he would be able to obtain the spirit race's Emperor Star. As such, the spirit race's Emperor Star was Zhao Fu's next target. Zhao Fu did not need to think too much about this and continued to absorb the Earth God's power. As the power of 24 ancient gods, the Earth God's power was quite powerful and would be of great help to Zhao Fu. Everyone watched on in shock. This was the second legacy power, and it was enough to prove that Zhao Fu had immense potential and was greatly favored by the stone statue. However, the following scene caused them to look dumbfounded, unable to believe that this was real. Boom, boom, boom. Explosions continuously sounded out as wave after wave of legacy power shot out from the stone statue's forehead. Waves of powerful Earth God's power continuously entered Zhao Fu's body. 1, 2, 3, 4. In the end, everyone could only watch as the stone statue passed all 10 of the great Master God's legacy power to that person before slowly disappearing. Chapter 21:19. How is this possible? How could he obtain all of the legacy power and not even leave a single legacy power for us? I was waiting for him to leave before continuing the test, but I never thought that something like this would happen. It's the first time I've seen someone obtain all of the God's legacy power. This God Stealer's identity is definitely not ordinary and is far more terrifying than we thought. We can't afford to offend him. Wait, there were rumors that someone could obtain all of the God's legacy power. Could it be this God Stealer? Could it be that he obtained all of the God's legacy power by himself? That's very likely. We saw him obtain all of the God's legacy power by himself, so there's no mistake about it. It's very likely that he obtained all of the other God's legacy power by himself. Don't talk about this for now. Also, it's said that the person who obtained all of the God's legacies was the second King of Kings. Could this person be the second King of Kings? Crap, don't scare me like that. Such a terrifying existence has appeared in front of us. This is a small matter, and if we talk about it, we'll be scared to death. That's right, let's not talk about it. Don't forget that our people offended him before. If we talk about his identity, he might kill us. No matter if he's the second King of Kings or not, with his power, we can't afford to offend him. As such, it's best not to talk about this, or he might hear us. Hualing felt quite surprised and looked at Zhao Fu. Before she had fallen asleep, she had heard about how terrifying the first King of Kings was. He had led the entire Outlander race by himself and had shaken the heavens and earth, and no one could contend with him. And her lowly and despicable master was the inheritor of such a terrifying existence? Hualing could not believe it. The first King of Kings had been simply too terrifying, and there was no one in that era who did not know about him. However, after thinking about it, Hualing felt that this was true. Even though Zhao Fu was despicable, his power surpassed her imagination, and facing Zhao Fu, she felt a trace of fear. At that moment, Zhao Fu's body shone with a yellow light. The power of the earth filled every part of his body. Standing on the ground, he could clearly sense the power of the earth. He could even absorb it endlessly. After a short while, Zhao Fu gave a trace of a smile and opened his eyes. Now, Zhao Fu's 10,000 gods' power had become even more powerful, but it was a pity that he had not obtained Earth-type spirit energy. Then, Zhao Fu turned around and flew towards Hualing. Seeing Zhao Fu fly over, Hualing did not say anything. On the way, she asked, "Are you really the second King of Kings?" Zhao Fu was startled. He looked at her and chuckled. Hualing was shocked. It was true. This master of hers was far scarier than she had imagined. At the same time, Hualing was somewhat convinced. The person who had subdued her had such a shocking background. She could accept being the subordinate of such a terrifying person. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the massive earthen orb floating in the air gave off an intense yellow light and gave off a massive aura as it turned into a ray of yellow light and shot into the sky. Bang! A massive explosion sounded out as the earthen orb exploded, and a shockwave of light spread out with unstoppable force. A powerful aura flooded out, and a yellow dust fog spread out. There were 24 magic circles in the sky, and one of them gave off a yellow light, as if the circle was filled with yellow light. Now, there were 8 circles in the sky, giving off different lights. This meant that the 8 god legacies had all of their legacy power. Everyone frowned as they looked at the gigantic spell formation in the sky. Now that 2 more overgods had given them all their legacy power, there were only 4 more overgods before the competition would enter the second stage. Why did it feel like the opening of the first stage was even shorter than the opening of the first stage? Just what was going on? Who was continuously obtaining legacy power so quickly? At that moment, Zhao Fu and Hua Ling continued to search for the god legacy grounds and to steal godly spirits' divine power. 2 hours later, Zhao Fu stole another few hundred godly spirits' divine power and obtained 2 pieces of information. One was about the killing god's legacy grounds, and the other was about the sword god's legacy grounds. After hearing about these 2 pieces of information, Zhao Fu felt quite delighted, mainly because of the killing sword intent. It was said that the killing sword intent was an ultimate power formed from pure killing intent and sword intent. When it matured, its attack power would be even greater than the 6 paths of reincarnation. As one of the 24 ancient god lords, the killing intent and sword intent that the killing god and sword god had were undoubtedly the most powerful sword intents in the world. If the killing sword intent fused with these 2 types of power, it would become much more powerful. The killing sword intent was such a terrifying power, so Zhao Fu naturally wanted to develop it. He could not waste such a powerful power. After hearing about this, Zhao Fu immediately headed to the nearest sword god's legacy grounds. He saw a simple and unadorned sword that was hundreds of meters long and made of metal, giving off a glass-like light. It floated in the air and gave off a massive sword chi, making the surroundings seem quite dangerous. Swords were one of the most mainstream weapons, and there were many people who used swords. Adding on the fact that news about this place had spread, there are now tens of thousands of godly spirits gathered here. All of the godly spirits here had a sword at their waist, and their bodies gave off powerful sword chi that seemed to be able to cut through people's skin. They were incredibly dangerous, and no one dared to get close. They were either sword gods or people with powerful sword energy. There were tens of thousands of them, and they surrounded the massive sword at the center. This scene was quite shocking. Looking at so many people with powerful sword chi, Zhao Fu could not help but think about other things. The Emperor Killing Sword world needed tens of millions of sword cultivators, and if they could satisfy this requirement, the Emperor Killing Sword world would become 10 times more powerful. It did not necessarily need 10 million sword cultivators here. For example, some people with powerful aptitude and power could be equivalent to a few people or even dozens, hundreds, or thousands of people. If he were to turn 1,000 sword gods into sword obsession, it would be extremely terrifying. This was because the sword god was a divine spirit that focused on the sword and contained an extremely powerful sword energy. His comprehension of the sword would definitely be much stronger than others. A single sword god's power could be equivalent to hundreds of thousands of sword cultivators, and this was based on the power of ordinary sword gods. Even more powerful sword gods would be equivalent to even more people. Chapter 2120. A single sword god was equivalent to hundreds of thousands of sword cultivators. 10 sword gods were equivalent to 1 million sword cultivators. 100 sword gods were equivalent to 10 million sword cultivators, and 1,000 sword gods were equivalent to 100 million sword cultivators. This exceeded the number that the Emperor-killing sword world needed, but Zhao Fu still wanted to capture 1,000 sword gods. If he could capture these 1,000 sword gods, Zhao Fu would not have to look for sword cultivators for a long time. Moreover, with 1,000 sword gods as the core of the Emperor-killing sword world, the Emperor-killing sword world's power would become even more powerful and would contain a trace of divine power. This way, the Emperor-killing sword world's power would become even more terrifying. Of course, the Emperor-killing sword world needed geniuses in the way of the sword, and the stronger the genius, the better. However, Zhao Fu could not find that many geniuses in the way of the sword, so he could only use sword gods. Now, he had to figure out how to capture these sword gods. There were tens of thousands of godly spirits here, and Zhao Fu could not just foolishly act. After all, it would be quite difficult for Zhao Fu to deal with a few hundred godly spirits, let alone tens of thousands. Zhao Fu thought about it and had an idea. Moreover, with a Void Realm expert like Hualing here, Zhao Fu would not feel as much pressure. Zhao Fu was not in a hurry to obtain the Sword God legacy. Capturing 1,000 sword gods was more important, and Zhao Fu could only choose to capture sword gods first. Right now, the Sword God Legacy land had attracted so much divine power. If Zhao Fu obtained the legacy, the entrance to the Sword God Legacy land would definitely disappear, and the sword gods here would scatter. Zhao Fu would not be able to gather so many sword gods. Zhao Fu had a trace of smile on his face as he turned and said to Hualing, "Let's go." Hualing felt quite surprised and did not know what Zhao Fu was doing, so she followed Zhao Fu and left. Shing! A massive sword hum sounded out from a mountain, and a corporeal sound wave spread out, tearing through rocks and piercing through gold. A massive wave of sword energy flooded out from the mountain, sweeping out in all directions. Countless black and blood-red sword lights pierced through the mountain, causing the heavens and earth to dim and clouds to swirl as the mountain continuously collapsed. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a black and blood-red sword light containing immense power shot into the sky, forming a black and blood-red sword pillar. A massive sword chi spread out, causing countless rocks to fly everywhere, revealing a sword stabbed into a mountain. The sword looked simple and unadorned. It was black and blood-red in color. It was inserted into the rocky ground, and the blade of the sword was a finger deep into the ground, emitting a powerful black and blood-red sword light. Waves of terrifying sword chi spread out with this place at the center, seeming to cover the entire world. The heavens and earth became icy cold and became incredibly dangerous, making people's hair stand on end. In the sky, the black blood-red light continued to spread, and the sky seemed to be dyed red by black blood. It continued to spread in all directions, and the bone-chilling cold continued to surge in all directions. The godly spirits around the massive sword sensed this terrifying sword chi, and their expressions fell. Their bodies felt as if they had fallen into icy water, and they could not help but tremble. Clang, clang, clang. Sword hums sounded out as the swords tied to the godly gods' bodies started to tremble as if they were terrified. The godly spirits looked in a certain direction and looked incredibly shocked. Just what was going on for there to be such terrifying ripples? Most importantly, this ripple came from a sword, and they could sense the aura that this sword gave off. Almost everyone present was a sword cultivator, so sensing this terrifying sword chi, they naturally would not stay here. Boom, boom, boom. Massive explosions sounded out as the godly spirits turned into rays of light and gave off powerful auras as they flew in that direction. After everyone arrived, they saw a black and blood-red sword pillar that connected the heavens and earth. Waves of terrifying sword chi swept out like wild gales, and the world seemed to be dyed black and blood-red. There was also an extremely terrifying sword energy that covered everything, causing the heavens and earth to continuously tremble as if they were afraid. Everyone looked incredibly shocked as they stared at that sword. Just what sort of sword is this? How can it give off such terrifying ripples? Even though everyone did not know what sort of sword it was, just from their senses, they could tell that it was definitely a supreme god weapon. If anyone could obtain such a sword, it would be equivalent to obtaining a supreme treasure in the world. There would be countless unimaginable benefits. Countless people's gazes became passionate as their hearts thumped. They were sword cultivators, so they wanted this sword even more than ordinary people. Just as everyone was about to fight over it, something unexpected happened. Boom! A shocking explosion sounded out as if the entire sky was collapsing. Countless cracks stretched out as the image of another world giving off a boundless aura appeared before everyone. The sky in this world was black and blood-red, and the ground was desolate. There were many different swords stabbed into the ground, and they did not give off any sound, only boundless, deathly silence. Boom! As that world descended, a boundless berserk killing intent and pure sword intent flooded out like a massive flood. No one could resist at all, and everyone felt incredibly small and powerless. Under this massive sword aura, countless people's bodies felt icy cold, and their legs trembled as looks of despair appeared on their faces. Heavens! Just what sort of sword is this? It's too terrifying. Even though I've seen countless swords, this is the first time I've seen such a sword. This sword is definitely a world-destroying weapon, and it has enough power to easily destroy the heavens and earth. There aren't many swords like this in the Heaven Awakened world, and all of them are very famous. However, it's the first time I've seen this sword, and I've never even heard of it before. I'm also quite curious. The terrifying power that this sword gives off doesn't contain a trace of the godly world's aura, so it most likely doesn't belong to the godly world. Why would it appear in a secret realm? I agree with what you said. This sword doesn't belong to the godly world at all, and it gives off an emperor's aura. It's most likely an emperor's sword, and the swords in our hands are filled with terror after sensing its aura. That's right. If it wasn't for me suppressing my swords, they would have long since run away in fear. Moreover, the previous owner of this sword was most likely an unimaginably terrifying existence. Perhaps we can deduce the origins of this sword from this. Do you know who it was? I never thought that the Emperor would have such a terrifying sword. The legendary King of Kings sword does have such power, but it's completely different from this sword. I didn't think that the Emperor would have such a sword. However, I have some impression of the power that the sword gives off. It's a crazy and twisted killing intent fused with a sword intent that can destroy everything. Chapter 21:21. The experts on the viewing platforms outside the secret realm sensed that berserk killing intent and pure sword intent, and they looked incredibly shocked. The scene immediately burst into an uproar. Is this the legendary celestial murdering sword intent? It's just as terrifying as the legends say, making people feel despair and unable to resist at all. That's right. This is most likely the legendary celestial murdering sword intent. Only it has such berserk killing intent and sword intent that can destroy everything. This power is incredibly terrifying. No wonder it caused such a catastrophe. I never thought that after so many years, the celestial murdering sword intent would appear again, and in the gods' competition at that. Don't you know? I remember that the celestial murdering sword intent appeared a few years ago, but I don't know who obtained it. Now that that person obtained it and came to participate in the gods' competition, I really don't know who it is. However, this sword contains such powerful celestial murdering sword intent, not just anyone. Moreover, this sword suddenly appeared here. Don't you feel that it's quite strange? I also feel that it's quite strange. Back then, the killing sword world was destroyed by a few terrifying celestials, and only a bit of its power remained. Now that this power has appeared in this sword, who has the ability to use the celestial murdering sword intent to forge a sword? Is that so? I don't think it's that simple. Look at that descending sword world. It's most likely the killing sword world from back then. Not only did that person use the celestial murdering sword intent to forge a sword, but he also created a new sword world. Who has such great ability? To be able to do such a thing, it's most likely a half-step celestial existence. However, why would a half-step celestial place the sword there? Even a half-step celestial would not be willing to part with such a terrifying, world-destroying sword. What's more, that place seems to be a trap. I remember now. Back then, when this sword was forged, it caused a massive, abnormal sign and shook the entire Heaven Awakened world. Most people in the Heaven Awakened world know about it, but they only know of its existence and have never personally seen it. I'm worried that this celestial murdering sword intent will cause a catastrophe like back then. Once that catastrophe spreads, it will be difficult for us to control it. That's hard to say. Now, this sword not only contains the celestial murdering sword intent, but it also contains the Emperor's power. Even though that berserk twisting power has weakened, I feel that the Emperor's power is just as terrifying. This sword was the Emperor Killing Sword. Zhao Fu understood how important the Emperor Killing Sword was, so he blocked off his image and directly disappeared. He also made everyone think that Zhao Fu had entered a valley and did not know that Zhao Fu had come out. Right now, Zhao Fu was within the depths of the Emperor Killing Sword world and had fused his consciousness with the Emperor Killing Sword world. In this place, Zhao Fu was the Emperor Killing Sword world. There were now thousands of godly powers attracted by the Emperor Killing Sword, and more godly spirits were rushing over. Sensing the Emperor Killing Sword's terrifying power, all of the godly spirits felt incredibly afraid and wanted to obtain that sword. With such a world-destroying sword stabbed into the ground, there was no one who did not want to obtain it. This sword had already been enveloped by that world. If one wanted to obtain that sword, they would have to enter that world. Looking at that world, the sky was a black and blood-red color, and the ground was desolate. There were different swords stabbed into the ground, and they did not give off any sounds. There was only boundless, deathly silence and an incredibly dangerous feeling. Some people could not help but want to go up and obtain that sword, as the temptation of that sword was too great. They were willing to take the risk. A young man holding a large sword with a serious gaze gave off a massive aura as he rushed towards the sword world. The young man's body entered and immediately disappeared. It seemed that this sword world was not the same as what they had seen. Now that someone had taken the lead, others quickly followed. However, some people could enter that world, while others could not. This was very strange. Those who could not enter, as soon as they got close to that world, a black and blood-red sword chi would flood out from that world, sending that person flying. Those who had been sent flying crashed to the ground with pale faces and blood leaking out of their mouths. They were quite injured. Soon, everyone understood the reason. Only sword gods could enter this world, and no one else had the right to enter. This caused some people to sigh. It seemed that they were not fated with this sword. Some people were not willing to give up and wanted to force their way in. A ferocious-looking big man giving off fiery flames held a red hammer and gave off a searing power as he rushed towards the sword world, giving off an incredibly ferocious aura. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as a massive black and blood-red sword chi flowed out from the sword world, forming a large sword made of sword chi that shot towards the big man with great power. The big man sent a massive wave of fire energy into his hammer, causing it to burn with flames. The big man vigorously swung, and a massive ball of flames shot forwards, seeming to be able to burn everything. Bang! The sword formed from black and blood-red sword chi gave off a berserk killing intent and sword intent, instantly becoming extremely dangerous. It slashed forward, piercing through the huge ball of flames before dissipating into countless flames. The black and blood-red sword chi did not dissipate, and instead quickly shot towards the big man. The big man was unable to react in time, and his chest was pierced by the sword chi. Blood flew everywhere, and the big man died. This gave everyone a big fright, and they did not dare to force their way in, afraid that they would end up like the big man. All of this was naturally under Zhao Fu's control. The reason why Zhao Fu did not let anyone else in was because there were too many people and there was no way for him to control them. Moreover, Zhao Fu only needed sword gods and not other godly spirits. The other sword gods could not help but smile. This was an opportunity that belonged to them. It was impossible for other godly spirits to obtain this world destroyer sword. The sword gods walked into the sword world, but they did not realize just how dangerous it was inside. Clang, clang, clang. After the sword gods entered the sword world, the sword stabbed into the ground continuously trembled and gave off sword hums that sounded like the sound of death. Swish, 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 swish. Countless swords flew up from the ground and into the sky, covering the entire sky. They were so densely packed that it was impossible to count them clearly, and a terrifying sword aura formed, covering the entire world. This caused the sword gods' expressions to fall. They could sense the aura of death from this sword aura. This was not to let them in to obtain opportunities, but to slaughter them. Chapter 21-22. Swords floated in the black and blood-red sky. This scene was extremely terrifying, as if the end of the world was about to arrive. Swish, swish, swish. The swords in the sky brought with them streams of black and blood-red light as they shot towards the sword gods below. It was as if there was a rain of swords, as if they could destroy everything. The scene was extremely terrifying. There were already hundreds of sword gods who had entered. Facing the countless flying swords, the sword gods immediately brandished their swords, and sharp sword lights continuously slashed out. Clang, 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 clang. The flying swords were slashed into countless pieces and shot out, giving off sounds of metal clashing and sparks. The sword gods did not dare to be careless at all. They knew that if they were not careful, they would die here. Even if they chose to leave the secret realm, it would be useless because they were in the sword world. The sounds of metal clashing continuously sounded out as the sword gods swung their swords, destroying the countless swords that were shooting over. However, there were so many swords that some of the sword gods were unable to block. Their bodies were pierced through, causing blood to fly everywhere. The sword god's body fell to the ground, but he did not immediately die. A wave of black and blood-red aura surged into his body like a tidal wave and started to control his body, causing it to go through a transformation. At this moment, because everyone was busy blocking the flying swords, they did not notice this at all. As the number of sword gods continuously increased, the sword gods understood that if this went on, all of them would die here. As such, in order to survive, the sword gods chose to work together. Boom, boom, boom. The sword gods gave off different kinds of powers as their bodies gave off different colored sword lights. They threw the swords in their hands into the sky, raised a hand, and grabbed at the air. Clang, clang, clang. Sword hums continuously sounded out as the flying swords were controlled by some sort of power. The swords faced upwards and floated in the air, giving off different sword lights. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as the countless swords floating in the air exploded out with an incredibly terrifying rainbow-colored sword energy. It gave off a destructive power as it spread out like a shockwave, causing the ground to crack and collapse. The countless black and blood-red swords that were flying over were also sent flying by the sword energy. Many of the swords broke, and their fragments shot out in all directions, giving off loud sounds. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that they had finally blocked the countless flying swords. Zhao Fu sat at the center of the emperor-killing sword world and closed his eyes as he frowned. These hundreds of godly spirits working together would not be easy to deal with. Clang, clang, clang. Sword hums once again sounded out as Zhao Fu controlled the swords to give off an intense black and blood-red light. Waves of killing sword intent flowed out, and each of the swords became incredibly dangerous. Shio, shio, shio. The sound of the air being torn once again sounded out as the flying swords gave off black rays of light and terrifying power as they shot towards the sword gods. The sword gods' expressions were solemn as they raised their hands to continuously release waves of divine power that infused into the swords floating in the air. The swords gave off different colored sword lights as waves of sword energy continuously fused together. Boom! A massive rainbow-colored sword energy spread out, causing the ground to sink and form a rainbow-colored pillar of light. It looked corporeal and was extremely firm, and a powerful aura continuously spread out. Bang! Bang! The flying swords slammed into the pillar of light, resulting in massive sounds. Many of the swords were blasted away, and a few cracks appeared on the pillar of light. Zhao Fu coldly harumphed as sword hums once again sounded out. The swords continuously gathered together, giving off waves of black and blood-red sword light, forming a massive black and blood-red sword dragon. Roar! The massive black and blood-red sword dragon gave a massive roar that shook the surroundings. It gave off destructive power and an incredibly ferocious aura as it rushed towards the pillar of light. The sword gods understood that they would not be able to block this attack, so they did not choose to defend. They exploded out with immense power as the swords in the air aimed at Zhao Fu, giving off blinding sword light. They continuously moved and changed, forming a massive rainbow-colored flying sword. Boom! The massive rainbow-colored flying sword gave off shocking sword energy as it shot out, leaving behind a massive rainbow-colored sword light. It gave off an incredibly powerful aura and shook the surroundings. Bang! A massive sound rang out as the black and blood-red sword dragon and the rainbow-colored sword collided, causing a terrifying power to spread out. Blinding sword light covered the entire world, causing the ground to continuously tremble and collapse. Everything was destroyed, and a terrifying aura flooded out in all directions. After all of the shock waves dissipated, a crater that was thousands of meters wide had appeared in the ground. There were savage sword gashes within it, looking quite terrifying. The sword gods' faces were covered with cold sweat as they looked at the massive crater in front of them. They still felt some lingering fear. Fortunately, they had successfully blocked this attack. Suddenly, dozens of sword gods came. Seeing this scene, they did not know what had happened, but seeing the destruction caused by the battle, they felt quite shocked. Boom! At that moment, a massive explosion suddenly sounded out as a sword-wielding person appeared in the air above the crater. He wore a black cloak, and his body gave off traces of black and blood-red sword chi. His eyes gave off a dense blood-red light, and a terrifying sword energy spread out from his body, causing the air around him to twist and collapse. He looked like a killing celestial. The sword in his hand was the sword that countless people dreamed of. It was the World Destroyer sword. Seeing that he had caused so much damage to the Emperor-killing sword world, Zhao Fu did not plan to control the countless flying sword to attack, and instead personally attacked. Right now, he was using the killing celestial mode. Sensing the berserk killing intent and destructive sword intent that Zhao Fu's body gave off, the sword gods felt a massive chill and looked terrified. The person in front of them seemed like a peerless demon. This was definitely a trap. It was this person who had lured them in with his sword. As the owner of the World Destroyer sword, just thinking about it caused them to feel a wave of terror. The sword gods only saw the terrifying demon look at them with a pair of eyes that emitted a dense blood-red light. Then it charged towards them at an extremely fast speed, leaving behind a series of afterimages. The sword gods did not hesitate and grab at the air, causing the swords on the ground to automatically fly up. They came before the sword gods and pointed at Zhao Fu. Waves of powerful energy were released from the sword gods' bodies and poured into the flying swords. The swords gave off different colored intense sword lights, as well as terrifying sword energy. Chapter 21-23. Boom! Boom! Flying swords giving off intense sword light shot towards Zhao Fu with terrifying power. They were incredibly fast and looked like rainbow rays of light shooting towards Zhao Fu. They gave off ferocious auras and seemed unstoppable. However, Zhao Fu did not show any fear and continued to rush forwards. As the flying swords shot over, he continuously swung the sword in his hand. Shing, 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 black and blood-red sword arcs slashed out, slashing away the flying swords, causing metallic sounds to ring out and sparks to fly everywhere. Seeing this scene, the sword gods felt quite shocked. They raised their hands and controlled the flying swords that had been sent flying into the sky. They faced downwards and sent a powerful wave of power into them. Countless flying swords floated in the sky and gave off boundless sword light, giving off terrifying sword energy. A massive sword aura swept out, making people feel quite afraid. Boom, boom, boom. The sword god's hands descended, and the countless flying swords in the sky gave off terrifying sword energy as they shot downwards. They gave off terrifying sounds as if they were going to shatter the ground. Zhao Fu's body stopped moving forward, and his blood-red eyes looked at the flying sword shooting down from the sky. The instant the flying sword shot towards him, Zhao Fu's body trembled. Boom! A massive black and blood-red sword chi exploded out of Zhao Fu's body like a flood, giving off massive power as it spread out in all directions. Shing, shing, shing. The mournful cries of swords rang out as the countless flying swords were all caught by the demonic hands. These demonic hands were condensed from the black and blood-red aura, and they also contained a strong killing intent and sword intent. The sword gods' expressions became quite grim, and they stretched out their hands, trying to control the flying swords to break free from the demonic hands. However, no matter how hard they tried, the demonic hands tightly grabbed onto the flying swords. At that moment, Zhao Fu's blood-red eyes looked at the sword gods, and he controlled the demonic hands to throw the swords in all directions. Shing, 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 one by one, the flying swords were thrown out by the huge force and stabbed into the ground. The swords were a foot deep into the ground, and they kept trembling, letting out sword cries. At that moment, Zhao Fu brought with him a massive aura and countless afterimages. His speed was extremely fast, and in just an instant he had rushed in front of the sword gods. The sword gods were startled and quickly sent out their power. A rainbow-colored energy barrier with swords on it appeared, covering all of the sword gods and giving off a powerful aura. Zhao Fu raised the Emperor Killing Sword, and his eyes gave off a cross-shaped blood-red light as he gave a condescending smile. A terrifying power flowed out of the Emperor Killing Sword, causing it to burn with a black and blood-red aura flame as a terrifying sword energy spread out. Boom! A massive explosion sounded out as Zhao Fu slashed down, and a massive black sword light containing destructive power slashed out, seeming to be able to destroy the heavens and earth. Countless black lightning bolts exploded out in the air. Bang! The sword light slammed into the rainbow-colored barrier, causing it to give off an intense rainbow-colored light and a massive power to block the black sword light. However, the barrier was only able to block for a moment before being shattered by the sword light, causing shards to shoot everywhere. The sword gods within the barrier were hit by a massive power and were all sent flying. They crashed to the ground and coughed up a large mouthful of blood. The sword gods looked at the demon-like Zhao Fu with pale faces. They understood that they were not a match for Zhao Fu at all, so they quickly got up from the ground and ran. Only by running could they survive. Looking at the escaping sword gods, Zhao Fu did not move at all and gave a condescending smile. Roar, roar, roar. Beast-like roars sounded out as figures came out of Zhao Fu's body, giving off terrifying auras as they rushed at the sword gods. These figures had blurry appearances and disheveled hair. Their eyes were blood-red and they held swords. Their bodies gave off a berserk killing intent and a pure sword intent, causing people to feel terror. Seeing the sword souls catch up, the sword gods immediately took out a sword and started to fight with them. Clang, clang, clang. The sword gods and sword souls once again fought, giving off sword hums. Even though the sword gods were not weak, the sword souls were extremely skilled, and after killing them, new ones would immediately appear. Arg! A pained cry sounded out as a sword god's chest was pierced by a sword soul, causing blood to fly everywhere. The sword soul flowed into the sword god's body like mist. Because the sword gods had all been heavily injured, facing so many sword souls, some of them were unable to hold on. Some of the sword gods had already been killed, and some of them could not help but beg for mercy. "Sir, don't kill me. I'm begging you. I'm willing to do anything. I'm begging you. I don't want to die here. I still have family and friends. Please let me go just this once. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to barge in here. Please let me go. Don't kill me. I can serve you. Please spare my life. I don't want a sword. Please let me go. I promise I won't be your enemy and will definitely be grateful to you." Hearing their pleas, Zhao Fu was expressionless and did not reply because he needed these sword gods. Moreover, Zhao Fu's hands had long since been stained with blood, so he would not be soft-hearted. Arg, pain cries continuously sounded out as the sword gods were killed by the sword souls. The sword souls flowed into the sword gods' bodies, and a massive wave of killing sword power spread out within their bodies, causing them to go through changes. Now that they were within the Emperor-killing sword world, Zhao Fu could easily control their lives. As such, even if they were heavily injured, they would not die. Moreover, this was Zhao Fu's world, so no one else would know what was happening inside. Soon, all of the sword gods fell to the ground, looking incredibly pained. The killing sword power continuously corroded their bodies, and it would take some time for them to transform. Zhao Fu stretched out a hand, and countless traces of black and blood-red aura flooded into their bodies, speeding up their transformation. Things were not over yet. There were only 400 sword gods here, and they still needed 600 more to complete the quest. This time, Zhao Fu had to strictly control the number of sword gods so that there would not be 100 of them gathered together. The godly spirits outside looked at the black and blood-red world and did not know what was going on. Even though they could not enter the sword world, facing such a rare item, they did not plan to give up. After hearing about this, some sword gods continuously hurried over, excitedly entering the sword world. As for what happened, there was no need to say anymore. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.